starts.
You said duty.
Yes, I did. What are the Eagles doing is a tremendous question. Good Wednesday morning, Philadelphia. I'm Andrew Salciunas alongside my man, John Kincade. Johnny, yesterday, you called me. You broke the news. Congratulations. You're Johnny Schefter, who we're going to be speaking to coming up today around
Clark,
8 o'clock.
Senior.
Yeah, sure. Yesterday, we get off the air. We do the promo talking about, hey, the offseason and off-seasons following Super Bowl wins and how it hasn't necessarily gone all that well for the Eagles. Obviously, we remember Super Bowl 52, the fall-off after that. We remember Super Bowl 57, and then the collapse season the following year. And then they get right back to it, and they win the Super Bowl a month ago, right? And it was amazing. It was a joyous time.
It was awesome.
And now all of a sudden, in the last couple of days, you've seen a defense, the number one ranked defense in the NFL, kind of dismantled, and we understood some of them. Josh Sweat, they weren't going to pay him. Milton Williams, they weren't going to pay him over $100 million.
Darius Slay going to get chump change. He's not going to get a big contract. And the word out of Pittsburgh is numbers that may be less than what Rodgers is going to get in year one. Isaiah Rodgers is going to get in year one.
Which is kind of crazy. The Isaiah Rodgers, Darius Slay combo,
Oren
not
Burks,
bringing one of them back. Oren Burks.
2 years for $5 million. Well, you knew Bradbury was gone. And then yesterday, Gardner-Johnson.
You break the news to me. You call me. Dude, they traded CJ GJ.
And you said, no, they didn't.
I'm like, no way. They didn't do that. And
way.
And sure enough, they did. And they trade him for a guard who has been struggling, and we'll talk about him more as the show goes on, and a fifth-round pick. And then all of a sudden, all the reports come out that it's a financial decision. And we'll get into all that kind of stuff coming up in a second.
Which, by the way, I call supreme BS.
Yeah, when every single reporter, and I love the Philadelphia media, you know that. We talk glowingly of guys like Tim McManus, Jeff McClain, Zach Berman. They're fantastic. Andrew DeCo.
The Eagles' collective bench of media is the best in the country.
Right.
For any individual team.
It doesn't mean that the messengers I question. It's the message that I question.
Sure.
When everybody tweets out like the same thing, that means one text was sent out to everybody.
Correct.
And they try to get ahead of the storm that this is a financial decision because they knew that Chauncey Gardner-Johnson and this trade will not go over well with a fan base that loves Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, a player that we saw the impact of when he left just 2 years ago. Do you guys not remember the San Francisco 49ers game when those players walked in here with an attitude saying, we are going to prove all the BS that they said, but we're going to back everything that we had to say up with this performance. We're going to act like this game is the NFC Championship game, even though it's in the middle of the season. The Eagles went into it with like some sort of business approach. The 49ers went into it with,
what kind of business approach?
We're going to kick their ass, and they walk in, and they walk right through your defensive back drills.
And pushed through their way.
And if Chauncey Gardner-Johnson is there, that ain't happening. I understand that Chauncey Gardner-Johnson is not the greatest safety of all time. Trust me, a lot of you on social media yesterday, because a lot of people are sheep, and whatever the Eagles do, they just agree. A lot of people started doing the whole, come on, man, let's not overrate CJ GJ. Let's not act like he's Brian Dawkins. First off, he is talented in his own right. But second of all, there is more to than just the player that Chauncey Gardner-Johnson is. He brings an attitude that this team clearly did not have 2 seasons ago, and they suffered from it. There was a lot of issues that happened inside that locker room. Now, clearly, there was stuff that happened last week between CJ GJ and Darius Slay. I don't know if that had any impact in this. It could be. We will talk about it. But I'll tell you straight up right away to start the show, Johnny. And we'd love to hear from you guys today at 610-632-0975 because that was major news yesterday that came out of nowhere. There was no whisper of it. We didn't hear a single reporter say, hey, be ready to maybe see something like this. I was stunned, and quite frankly, I hated it. I don't like it at all.
I hate it. I hate it flat out. I can't summarize it anymore. And again, the people who are going to put on their Eagles pom-poms and shake them and go, everything's fine. Oh, my God. They just won the Super Bowl. Why are you exaggerating? Oh, my gosh, they're going to be fine. Seriously? They're going to be fine. So and I heard Tyrone Johnson make a great point yesterday. on the best show ever. When Darius Slay went out of a game, who went in? Isaiah Rodgers went in.
Yeah.
When one of the corners was out, Isaiah Rodgers
Not
was first
Keely
man
Ringo.
up. I mean, not Keely Ringo. We never saw Keely Ringo.
Yeah.
I mean, it's okay. It is okay to be an Eagles fan and to not feel the need to just bah like a sheep and say, everything's fine. It's great. Or to go, Howie. You don't trust Howie? I do trust Howie. I've seen Howie do a lot of great things. But you cannot tell the story of Howie without saying there have also been the Titanic drop-offs after success. The one thing Howie Roseman does not have on his resume is sustained success.
Now, this could be a move where they're going to try to create sustained
And I hope
success.
so. I hope so.
Because they do have to, like, in fairness, all right? In fairness to Howie, we try to be a very fair show. In fairness to Howie, they do have to think about down the road, paying guys like Jalen Carter, Jordan Davis, that if they want him to be a part of this team moving forward. Cam Jurgens is going to be up for an extension sometime soon. There are guys in-house that you definitely want to pay. I was very okay with Josh Sweat leaving. I was very okay with not paying $100 million for Milton Williams, who's a rotational defensive tackle, and now will be looked at as a starter in New England. Like I was totally okay with them not paying that kind of money. We would be devastated if Jalen Carter didn't get paid, Cam Jurgens didn't get paid. We'd be devastated. So in fairness, there might be a plan down the road. But here's the deal. What we do, we react. What we do, the MO of this show is today's talk show. So in the here and now, I'm damn near pissed off. Like, I hated that move yesterday. It makes no sense. Financially, it actually doesn't do all that much. The people that do the cap breakdowns and go through what kind of money Chauncey Gardner-Johnson was going to get, it really wasn't all that much.
You know what the money savings is?
What was it, like $200,000?
How about half of the NFL minimum salary?
Yeah, like that's nothing.
Half of the lowest paid guy on your roster. Half of that. That was the money savings. So again, it's not about money.
Yeah, that's baloney. And again,
it's about something else. And maybe Vic Fangio, who I do trust, maybe he wants something else.
Now here's the deal. We can all be big boys and big girls here. We try to do that. We put our big boy and big girls pants on before the show starts. All right, every single day.
Your big girl pants are very attractive.
They're can
really great.
Still trust Howie and still trust Vic Fangio.
Yes.
And still trust Jeffrey Lurie and still trust Jeff Stoutland, right? Because they bring in a new guard. I could still trust all these people. That doesn't mean I can't question them.
And that doesn't mean that you can't look at the facts and say that the same guy who bleeds for the city, who's gotten them to 3 Super Bowls in 8 seasons, can still make a lot of dumb moves too in his and we by the way, we've got a couple on the roster that are and one of them that's really hampering the whole defensive game plan because of the fact of the biggest mistake that was made last offseason.
Right, Bryce Huff was a non-factor.
Both things can be true. And you say it beautifully there. Both things can be true.
But if I'm going to take a side today, which we do, I'm angry. I am not happy with this move. I want sustained success. I want to talk about the D word. Dynasty, that is, ladies and gentlemen. And all of a sudden, I look at my defense, and it's gone. Half of it's gone. My number 1 ranked defense, half of it's gone. And you traded one of the more beloved players for a guard and a 5th-round pick because you're worried about $200,000?
I think they were worried about him also complaining about not making enough money next year.
That could be it, too. They could be ahead of something. So today at 610-632-0975, we're reacting to the trade of Chauncey Gardner-Johnson. Your feelings toward it? What are the Eagles doing? Answer that question for us today because, quite frankly, I don't necessarily know. I have some theories, but those theories I don't necessarily agree with. So we're going to talk about it a lot today. It is a big football Wednesday here on Kincade Salciunas. Schefter at 8 o'clock today. Andrew DeCo for 2 hours in studio, all here on 97.5 The Fanatic. morning. I understand that there's probably a vision that Howie Roseman has and that Vic Fangio has. Clearly, Vic Fangio has the keys to the defense, so clearly there's a vision. And people on social media yesterday made that abundantly clear because whatever Vic wants or whatever Howie does, we're just going to completely say, oh, okay, yeah,
we're
sure,
going to trust.
Yeah, go for it.
We're going to trust Vic's vision because he's earned that trust.
And I understand.
It's only been 1 year, but he's earned the trust.
But I will also say this. What makes me angry is I saw the impact that this dude made, and you saw the impact when he left. The first time.
He made a huge impact.
And
attitude-wise, if at the very least attitude-wise.
That's the thing. Sometimes, guys, I ignore, like, grit and, that kind of stuff. Like, because sometimes it doesn't work out. P.J. Tucker comes here with the Sixers a few years ago. That was supposed to be like, all right, he's going to be the guy that kicks Embiid's ass, and he's going to be the guy that holds everybody accountable.
Sure.
And what did it lead to? Another second-round elimination.
Nothing.
And another series where Embiid disappeared.
But you know what? You sound angry. Daryl Morey thinks you sound angry.
Yeah. That's what we're built off of. So sometimes I ignore that kind of stuff. But football, man, and the safety position, and you also have to have talent.
Which, since B-Doc, he's been the only one.
Yeah.
Who stepped in there.
Oh, no, Malcolm Jenkins.
Yeah, Malcolm Jenkins is, though, I look at him as a different player.
I got it. Hybrid role. And
right. I mean, I look at him as a different
more
player.
of a leader in his own way.
But
whereas Chauncey Gardner-Johnson's going to,
Malcolm, look,
lead another way.
I think people. I don't think that C.J. Gardner-Johnson was leading the way Malcolm or Dawkins did.
Correct.
But I think he was leading by, I'm damn glad I'm fighting with him.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm walking into a fight. I'm glad I'm fighting with him.
And here's the thing. The 49ers walked into a fight, and the Eagles said,
yeah, we're all right.
No, we don't want to fight. Like, just keep on walking by. And so I saw the impact of losing Chauncey Gardner-Johnson once. I'm afraid to see it again, and now he's gone.
Now, the only difference is we're not talking about Sean Desai trying to figure out how to handle out the losing of C.J. Gardner-Johnson. We're talking about Vic Fangio.
Yeah, but you know
that was my Zen point.
Yeah,
yesterday.
it's your whoopee. It's your blankie. It's gray doggy for Coop. Like I get it. That's like your comfort. But here's the deal. I can't just go about life putting all my trust into somebody. I can't.
Okay, can you put a little trust in?
Yeah, I have trust.
Can you put half trust in?
I have trust in Vic Fangio. Don't get me wrong. But I can't just go.
Everything's going to be okay.
Here's what I'll do. We got the YouTube week 1.
Okay.
I'm going to put the game on. I'll fold my arms like a pouty kid and say, "All right, prove me wrong."
Come on, that's too far.
Prove me wrong.
That's too far.
Now the thing is, though, is that I feel like you feel this morning about what went down yesterday, but like Connor is saying, I think that's a bridge
too far.
I think it's a bridge too far.
Before the game starts, they're going to hang a banner as Super Bowl champions. And I know that doesn't say anything about what this next year's team is going to do because they have to prove it in their own right in this next season. But when they hang that banner, your reaction is going to cross your arms like a petulant child and say,
"No, he said at kickoff."
At kickoff,
he said at kickoff.
I will fold my arms and say, "Prove me wrong." And the first time I see Sidney Brown miss a tackle in open space, which he does. If he is the replacement and they score a touchdown or it's a big play, I'm going to go, yeah, you know what? You know who wouldn't have done that? Chauncey Gardner-Johnson. Because here's the deal. I am not somebody who got soft after Super Bowl 52. I wanted to trade Nick Foles. I wanted to get more draft picks, a second-round pick, which was the report, which ended up being wrong because Mike Silver's more of a fan of the San Francisco 49ers than he is a reporter.
That is correct.
I didn't get soft after they won the last time. I'm not getting soft this time either. I want to keep on winning. And yesterday's move, nobody can really give me enough insight to tell me this is why they did it. The story will come out eventually that he freelanced or something, right? Like,
no,
he didn't listen to Vic Fangio. Like, that story's going to come down at some point. But right now, until I'm proven wrong, I'm upset with this move.
I think he tried to hold them up. I think he went in after Saquon's extension and said, let's rework.
Even though he said that tweet had nothing to do with the...
Yeah. I think that's what it has to do with.
So we all have theories that weren't just what was reported yesterday with the financial discussion. What we'll do is we'll go through some theories coming up next. Also, speaking of the financial report, John Clark joined the best show ever yesterday and talked about just that. I'm going to shake my head half the time he's talking. Just giving you guys a heads up. You'll hear from John Clark coming up next. We'll go through our theories on the day after Chauncey Gardner-Johnson was traded, the second time he leaves Philadelphia after the team went to the Super Bowl. This time, after they won it. It is Kincade and Salciunas on this Wednesday morning, 97.5 The Fanatic.
Fanatic Sports Update.
A shocker of a trade. I'm Connor Thomas, and the Eagles made a shocking trade yesterday, sending Chauncey Gardner-Johnson and a 6th-round pick in the 2026 draft to Houston for guard Kenyan Green and a 2026 5th-round pick. Kenyan Green, a first-round pick in the 22 NFL draft, has been underwhelming in Houston, but he's on the final year of his rookie deal, and we know how he likes those kind of guys. John Clark of NBC joined the best show ever yesterday to react to the trade.
The CJ-GJ thing surprised me. Now, the only thing I can think is that they believe that there are some younger players, and that the level of play is not a tremendous difference, whereas the salary is.
So we'll see how that plays out and what the Eagles have as an answering move. The Eagles also lost running back depth as Kenny Gainwell will be signing with the Pittsburgh Steelers. Howie Roseman sure has his work cut out for him as the offseason continues. The Flyers fell to the Senators 5-2 last night. Sixers will take on the Raptors tonight at 7:30. You can hear that game live here on The Fanatic. Adam Schefter will join us coming up at 7:55. Andrew DeCo will join us from the 8 o'clock hour till the end of the show. This update's brought to you by Bradford White Water Heaters. When you need a new water heater, choose one that's built to be the best. Choose Bradford White. I'm Connor Thomas for the home of the 76ers and Flyers. 97.5 The Fanatic and 97.5thefanatic.com.
For those of you who are listening now, we appreciate you as always, watching on YouTube, listening to the show, either on the radio or on the app. Adam Schefter is going to be joining us coming up at 6:55 this morning.
Okay, so that's an early rise for him because he got A block today in Get Up.
Yeah, because there's a lot going on.
That doesn't usually happen. So he's A block today, and we got it.
There's a lot going on, and maybe that should tell you that there's a lot to still come in the NFL as the free agency period technically opens up today at 4:00. Even though all these signings have technically happened, they can't be official until 4:00 today. So Adam Schefter will be joining us coming up at 6:55. But what we will do is we will also replay it at 7:55 to try to keep with the same, speed of the show. All right, so before we get to our theories, I do want to let one of the reporters who did put out the tweet yesterday, there was like 8 or 9 different reporters that kind of put out the same tweet yesterday.
It's funny you pointed that out. So during the break, I'm scrolling the last 2 times. Yeah, I did find 6 of them. It's almost the exact same wording.
Yeah, it's almost verbatim. It's
because that's, by the way, that's reporters trying to do the right thing.
Right, they want to get the information out.
They want to get the information out. But sometimes that information can be propaganda.
Yeah, remember,
they're just doing their job. So.
This isn't an anti-Howie thing, but there was a time, there was an incredible story from The Athletic a few years ago from Zach Berman and Bo Wolf and Sheil Kapadia. It was a long story that they had 3 reporters work on it, where part of the story was Howie Roseman's manipulation with the media.
Yep.
And how he likes to get the message out. He's the guy that does the talking. He's the one that wants to get the message out that suits the Eagles best. He doesn't want any murky waters out there. So, you would send that out there because you knew the backlash that the trade would get. He's a fan favorite.
He is.
You saw what you missed in him last year, 2 seasons ago, after they did not bring him back when he went with the Detroit Lions, and clearly you lost that attitude. So you put out something like, financially, this is what we're doing. And then you have the outside sources that do the whole, well, how much is this actually saving?
All it took, honestly, yesterday, I had to pull over because I was going to something else after I talked to you on the phone. I had left you. It wasn't far. I had to pull over and do something else. So immediately I just went to Spot Track because that's where I'll go.
Yeah.
And look at contract stuff. And I'm like, this isn't saving a bunch of money.
No.
Now, down the line, could it save the money? I think the only way it saves money is if C.J. Gardner-Johnson, and I do believe it could have happened, wanted more money now and said, hey, let's talk about a contract extension. Look what you just did for Saquon.
Well, let's get to those theories in a second. Here was John Clark yesterday with the best show ever, Tyrone and Ricky, giving what he has been hearing about the trade of Chauncey Gardner-Johnson.
They have so much money tied up with their stars and their key players. This is the type of thing that they need to prepare for, and they need younger players to keep coming up because in free agency, guys are going to get big money. Now, the GJ thing surprised me. Now, the only thing I can think is that they believe that there are some younger players, maybe Sidney Brown and some other guys that they view as guys who can step in, and that the level of play is not a tremendous difference, whereas the salary is. And, look, GJ, he has the swag. He's incredible. But, maybe there is a reason why he has bounced around over the last 4 years, 1 year in each place. And that's the only other thing I can think of. So it's a combination of money. You need to get younger, but also, there's a reason why he might be gone from town to town a year at a time.
Now, I wondered when I heard that from John. Now, look, John's as connected as anyone.
Oh yeah,
he is always going to do his due diligence.
How do you think he's at the airport for everything?
I'm wondering whether that's exactly what he's heard. The last part. You got to wonder why the guy bounces around all the time, because that should be everybody's question.
Right.
Why does someone with his dynamic skill set and otherwise end up being, he stays one place and they're like, yeah, we're good.
All
we're
right.
good. We're going to move on.
So theory time. If we're going off of the initial report that it's financial,
which by the way is false. That's false.
Yeah, because they weren't breaking the bank.
They saved half the minimum salary of an NFL player. That's all.
Yeah.
So I I will put that as if we have a community notes on it, that is fake.
Yeah.
False.
So
That's
your
not the reason.
theory, I do believe is
That
very
he could
possible.
He could very well have said, "Hey,
Where's
look what
my
you
money?"
did for Saquon? Let's sweeten my deal up a little bit."
Yeah, and there was that tweet where, he was talking about how the season was great, but where's mine or whatever, and then he was saying, "No, this wasn't about the Eagles. I swear." It was like, Well, now that this kind of happened, I look back at that tweet with a side eye. The idea that they need young guys to step up because you're going to have a lot of money. You already have a lot of money tied up with core players. You're going to have to pay a lot of money down the pipe.
And that could be
totally understand it,
but not for this year. Not for this year. You could have had CJ. You're saving $200,000.
Well,
it's chump change.
What CJ were you getting?
What do you
That's
mean?
the thing you got to think about. You don't have to look at what he's saving on his current contract. You have to look at the situation you could be saving yourself from.
Like a Hassan Reddick type situation.
Not to that level, but I'll tell you, the personality and the money get married in this situation.
Yeah, but here's the deal. I would think that would come after this upcoming season because he would be going into the final year of his deal where he doesn't have, I think, any bit of guaranteed money. So then I believe they would have the contract discussions.
Well, he's got a potential out in his contract after this coming year.
Yeah,
so
right.
essentially, this is the last year of his deal.
Right,
And-
so you would work through that either during this. I mean, we've seen how Devontae Smith was before the season started, right?
Yeah. That's where the personality comes in. Devontae Smith is not Chauncey Gardner-Johnson.
Fair.
Chauncey Gardner-Johnson already speaks his mind on crazy stuff to begin with when he's fully happy. And we love him for part of that on the field.
Sure.
But I could see Howie Roseman saying, this is probably not great for a locker room. If I know this guy wants more money, and it could be something that becomes a distraction this coming season in the actual pursuit of the championship, let's save the money now. Let's save the trouble now. Let's make the move before it affects the
All
locker
right,
room.
and that's a good,
Connor, that's a really good thing.
good way to look at it. But if we're talking about pursuit of a championship,
It's your best day in a while.
if we're talking about,
vacation.
pursuit of a championship, I will tell you right now, Sidney Brown is not as good as Chauncey Gardner-Johnson.
Fair.
Here, anyone who argues that point with you is arguing out of complete mythology.
I understand.
If anybody says, "Look, I trust that Vic Fangio is if he believes in him, I believe in him." Vic Fangio didn't believe in Sidney Brown last year.
Because Tristan McConnell was the guy that played. Now Sidney Brown was hurt to start the
Seriously.
season, so he didn't have camp. Blah, blah, blah.
I got you.
I've seen Sidney Brown, and I've said this to you guys on the air before. I've talked about it with Andrew Zachecko. I've seen Sidney Brown take. Look, he's got energy, he's got physicality,
Crazy
all that
angles.
kind of stuff, right?
Crazy angles.
Horrible angles at ball carriers. Can't tackle, right? He can lay a lick on somebody, but if it's one-on-one, he is not taking the right angle. You need that when you're a safety. He's also, I know Chauncey Gardner-Johnson's crazy. Sidney Brown, in the playoff game against the Rams, where he was only a special teams guy, grabbed the guy by his collar to try to throw him toward the ball.
Which was unnecessary, too, by the way.
He's lucky he did not get a 15-yard penalty on that, which would have put the Rams at the middle of the field. Would we still be talking about that dog in him if he did something stupid?
Well, now Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, known for some stupid things, too.
Sure.
Being over-exuberant, but a hell of a different player.
Hell of a different
player.
And so then it leads to another question that I have that we'll get into coming up next. And then we're also going to get to the text line because I know the people are fired up this morning. So. We'd love to hear from you. What are the Eagles doing? Your reaction to the Chauncey Gardner-Johnson trade. Tyler Steen just going to hang around? I'll bring that up coming up next because this trade makes no sense to me. It's Kincade and Salciunas, 97.5 The Fanatic. momentarily. Don't forget Adam Schefter, a little bit of a different time today. He joins us coming up at 6:55.
He puts Mike Greenberg ahead of us.
And, damn right, man.
And I would say by his paycheck, he should.
Yeah, probably. So we talked to Schefter in about 15 minutes about Chauncey Gardner-Johnson and all the moves that have happened with the Eagles around the NFL, losing players as well, and what could be the plan for the Eagles this year, which we'll get into at some point in the show. It's a busy day. There's so many different angles with this Chauncey Gardner-Johnson trade because I was so confused by it, so upset by it, that there are so many things I need to talk about. And I don't believe the reporting that's been done. I believe in the reporters. I don't believe in what the report is that they've been given.
The messaging that they've been given.
And so one of the other things that comes down in this trade, we haven't even talked about the player that they acquired. They acquired Kenyan Green, who was a first-round pick of the Texans, and it hasn't worked out for him.
Does it sound familiar?
And so,
Does that sound familiar to you?
Brandon Brooks.
Does it sound familiar to you? No, I'm talking about
Mekhi Becton.
Mekhi Becton.
Oh, well, I was going Brooks,
a first-round draft,
another Texans lineman that comes here.
A first-round draft pick that doesn't work out, that everybody says is a bust and doesn't work out. On this one, that's an interesting angle. He's bad, though.
Yeah,
he has been.
We are going to give you
NFL player.
Numbers later on the show. It's really bad. Becton, you could kind of understand because he was hurt and all kinds of stuff. But you bring in Kenyan Green, and everyone immediately goes, "Oh, well, if there's anybody that can fix him, it's Stalin." And I get it. Totally understand why anybody would have that opinion. Totally understand still why anybody would say, trust Vic Fangio, he'll find a guy that can replace Chauncey Gardner-Johnson. I understand why anybody has those mindsets. That's just not where I'm at. The Kenyan Green thing's amazing to me, though. So he's got this year under control and then a club option for 2026. Tyler Steen is here this year and next year. They will both be unrestricted free agents after the 2026 NFL season. So if Kenyan Green is supposed to be hey, we did this for financial reasons, but look, we also got this former first-round pick. What about your third-round pick, who everybody has said, even our own Andrew DeCo, that if Becton does not come back, they are comfortable enough to have Tyler Steen. So if Tyler Steen ends up being the starter, you basically traded Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, the guy that had the most interceptions now twice for you in 2 different seasons, 3 years apart. You traded one of your best interceptors, one of your best turnover machines for a backup guard, or you traded for a starting guard, and your third-round pick just kind of continues to sit there.
And that can't be. That can't be because it would be contrary to the message. And the message is that we got to get younger. We got to get younger. We got to have this roster because we got to pay all these guys. So it's contrary to the message. If Tyler Steen is not the starter, then that totally blows that message out of the woodwork. It's done because you're not doing what you're saying you need to do.
Well, financially, Kenyan Green and Tyler Steen are both not really breaking the bank for you.
No. But this is a first-round pick.
But that's the thing. If Steen wins the job, it's his job to lose, I think.
I hope it's his job to lose.
But then you traded Chauncey Gardner-Johnson for a backup, and your reasoning is a lie about financial reasons.
When you brought in Mekhi Becton, Jeff Stoutland, we find out after the fact that Jeff Stoutland had studied all the tape and said, let me get my hands on him. I can work with this kid.
Yeah.
He's got all the physical tools that I need to work with. I'll teach him the technique. By the way, that is the word out of Houston. Sean Salisbury yesterday tried getting some information from their camp down there. Sean's a good dude. That the word is technique. That's the problem with this guy. Then that tells me maybe he's not coached up by a guy the caliber of Jeff Stoutland.
All right, but then he's your starter, and then Tyler Steen's your backup. Still.
No, but that's fine. But the thing is, I'm fine as far as if we get another reclamation project here that pays off. Oh, that's freaking awesome.
Yeah, but what does it pay off?
No, it pays off. It pays off. If you give me if they find another Mekhi Becton laying in the weeds, I'm all in.
All right, and at least you have him for 2 years.
Yes, exactly.
And then you're back to square one again.
But I'm all in if that's what they're doing.
All right, what do we have on the text line? Major news yesterday with the Chauncey Gardner-Johnson trade. I'm amazed by people that just go, like when I put out the tweet right away that I didn't like it, I immediately got come on, we overrated him.
We just went to the Super Bowl. If I hear
there are people that all of a sudden say they overrate him. Remember last week when the Darius Slay stuff comes out, everybody's team Chauncey, and now he's traded and he was just another guy?
Everybody last week, overwhelming. Now I was catching up on the story late on the flight home, and I'm going back and I'm reading almost like in real time. What the hell? And I'm going this story. It was almost unanimous.
Everybody's Team Chauncey.
Team Chauncey Gardner.
They trade him away because
Now
the
it's-
Eagles did it.
now it's overrated?
He's overrated.
Give me a break.
Blah, blah, blah.
Give me a break.
What are the people saying on the text line this morning?
All right, we have a check in here from Dave from West Deptford who says 2 points. It's far too early to say Sidney Brown is going to be the starter for opening week. Give them a chance to work on the safety position. The other point is that it took 4 to 5 weeks for this defense to take shape last year. Have faith. Go Birds.
See, that's a really good point. And Connor, please, to your initial point to Andrew, is that, remember, at the bye week after 4 games, nobody was saying, damn, this defense, man. This defense looks great. Nobody was saying it. We came to that conclusion. So that's why I hope you just bask in the glory of the banner being unveiled, and hopefully they can go out and get an opening night win.
Till I
Whatever
see
way
Sidney
possible.
Brown miss a tackle.
I understand, but the thing is that you can't.
Because I've seen it. Here's the thing.
All
I've
right.
seen it now for 2 seasons. I've seen.
Okay, I saw Chauncey Gardner-Johnson play like crap.
They did first 6
Until-
weeks of the year.
Oh, longer than that.
7, 8 weeks.
I'm going to tell you, it was into November.
Okay.
Yeah, that's fair.
I think Christina had already bought the Thanksgiving turkey.
Oh,
I'm
is that
not
right?
sure till he started.
Takes a while to
He was
defrost.
he was the worst player in the secondary.
Yeah, he was bad.
for a long stretch of last season.
And then he got much better.
and then it all worked out.
But he's also been a good player in the past. Like
I got you.
It goes like
but we weren't saying that in October. In October, we were saying, "Man, what's with C.J. Gardner-Johnson?
Yeah, but then you're not surprised that he
He bounced back. I'm not.
bounced back.
No,
Like,
I'm not.
The Sidney Brown, because Chauncey Gardner-Johnson happened yesterday, we're focused on Chauncey Gardner-Johnson and his replacement.
Sure.
Couple days, the Darius Slay, Isaiah Rodgers signings are old news. I say the same thing about Keely Ringo. Like, I've never seen him so that if he plays poorly through 6 weeks, I'm not going to do the whole, well, it's still early. Like, I know that Chauncey Gardner-Johnson has had success in the NFL before.
Okay, but the thing is what I just said to you. You saw Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, a veteran, play like crap for half the year.
But he's had success before.
I understand,
I've
but the
never
thing is-
seen it with Sidney Brown or Keely Ringo
But
that
you-
if they struggle out the gate, that I will then continue to think, all right, it's going to get better, it's going to get better.
Well,
What if it doesn't?
But I believe it will get better. Is that I'm going to have the faith that it gets better, whether it gets to the level of C.J. Gardner-Johnson. That's a bridge too far for me.
And now, look, there's also the idea, as I am upset this morning, that maybe there's another player that they're going to sign.
Which I think is going to end up being a story.
And, we'll talk to Schefter about it coming up. Justin Simmons, a safety that,
jeez.
that everybody wants. Well, he's a Vic Fangio guy.
I understand, but how old's Justin Simmons
31.
now? No.
That's not too bad.
No, I mean, it's not too bad, but
He's a Vic Fangio guy.
He
They
is.
wanted him last year.
you're telling me you want Justin Simmons over C.J. Gardner-Johnson?
I'm not telling
No,
you
I understand that. But I mean, even if that's the case,
But I think people would be excited. Now, I saw a tweet from the Wolf.
well, I think you'd feel better.
Yeah.
If Justin Simmons comes in, you'll feel better. I'm not trashing the
McCollum and Brown.
Correct.
A
That's
tweet
it.
from the Wolf.
What's up, Wolfie?
Howie traded for Isaiah Rodgers and the media made fun of him. I don't remember that.
I do not remember that.
Howie traded for CJ GJ and the media made fun of him.
No, they did not.
I was on the air when that trade happened. I loved it.
Everyone loved it.
They ripped Becton when he got him last year, and they act like he's the greatest ever. Who ripped
No,
Becton?
who was ripping that?
Nobody thought he was going to
No
start.
one even thought he was going to be a story. That's fit, Wolfie. That's fiction. Or
Bottom line
you're
is,
listening to bad radio
He
shows.
says, be patient. Let's see what they do with the 5th round draft choices.
At least he didn't say they just won the Super Bowl.
But the first 3 sentences you said,
Come on,
Wolf,
false.
those
No,
are all
false.
wrong.
False.
All right, coming up next, Adam Schefter, earlier than normal, joins Kincade and Salciunas. Can't wait to talk to him about everything that happened this week here on 97.5 The Fanatic.
Fanatic Sports Update.
Eagles trade C.J. GJ. I'm Connor Thomas, and the Birds made a shocking trade yesterday, sending Chauncey Gardner-Johnson and a 6th-round pick in the 2026 draft to Houston for guard Kenyan Green, a 2026 5th-round pick. Kenyan Green was a first-round pick in the 22 NFL draft out of Texas A&M. He's been underwhelming down there for the Texans, but he is on the final year of his rookie deal. We know how he likes those kind of guys. John Clark of NBC joined the best show ever yesterday to react to the trade.
The CJ GJ thing surprised me. Now, the only thing I can think is that they believe that there are some younger players, and that the level of play is not a tremendous difference, whereas the salary is.
We'll keep an eye on potential follow-up moves. The Eagles also lost running back depth yesterday. Kenny Gainwell will be signing with the Pittsburgh Steelers, so Howie sure has his work cut out for him to figure out the rest of his moves. The Flyers fell to the Senators 5-2 last night. Sixers will take on the Raptors tonight at 7:30. You can hear that game live here on The Fanatic. Adam Schefter will join us coming up next, and Andrew DeCo will join us from 8 o'clock till the end of the show. This update's brought to you by Rapid Radios. Their instant push-to-talk walkie-talkies offering national LTE coverage for a limited time. Go to rapidradios.com now for 60% off and free UPS shipping. Add code RADIO and get an extra 5% off. I'm Connor Thomas for the home of the 76ers and Flyers, 97.5 The Fanatic and 97.5thefanatic.com.
This Wednesday morning here on Kincade Salciunas 97.5 The Fanatic. A championship Wednesday still. Despite how upset I am with the move, it is still a championship Wednesday, John.
You didn't use that much Monday or Tuesday. You did occasionally.
No, I used it Monday. Tuesday was Legal Tampering Tuesday.
You did.
LTT kind of took over the show, yeah.
Yeah, you did, but I appreciate it, and I'm glad to hear it again because it makes me smile.
No, it is a championship Wednesday.
Always makes me smile.
And it's funny. So we're going to be joined by Adam Schefter here momentarily, and our man Dan Baxter, who I like a lot.
Dan can be a little salty, a little sarcastic, but he's always and I follow Dan because he's interesting.
And so he responded to us talking about Chauncey Gardner-Johnson with a gif of Patrick Starr. I appreciate that. I'm a big SpongeBob kid. Snoring. Like, we're talking about this? Yeah.
About Chauncey Gardner-Johnson being gone?
Here's why. I scroll through his Twitter. Dan, I love you. You tweet a lot, my man. There were countless retweets of his from Eagles fans and tweets of his own about trust Howie. Don't overreact. If Vic Fangio and Jeff Stoutland signed off on this, it's got to be a good move. Again, I said it in the beginning of the show. I trust Howie. I trust Vic. I trust Jeff Stoutland. That does not mean I can't question the decision.
Correct.
That does not mean I can't go into the season or into March 12th because they could sign a safety today at 4 o'clock. Then all of a sudden my opinion will change. But right now, my opinion is based off of what happened yesterday. And what happened yesterday, I was not happy with. But let's go to the expert, the insider, on the Comcast Business Hotline. Every day in business is a big day. Let Comcast Business help you get ready for what's next. He's brought to us by Landis Block. Create your very own jaw-dropping backyard paradise online at landisbc.com. And, of course, you're listening to 97.5 The Fanatic, WPEN, WPN, HD1, Burlington, Philadelphia, a Beasley Media Group station broadcasting live from the Comcast Business Studio, powering possibilities. Shefty, good morning.
Gentlemen, what is going on?
It's all right that Mike Greenberg takes precedence over us today because this is one of your biggest days of the year.
Yeah, happy free agency day, Shefty.
I got to tell you something, guys. You know, I know free agency opens at 4 o'clock today. Free agency closes. It's over, okay?
Yeah, it happened Monday at 12 o'clock.
No. It happened the last week. It happened Sunday. It happened Monday. It happened Tuesday. It's over.
Illegally.
With the exception of Aaron Rodgers and Russell Wilson and some quarterback drama, some veteran wide receivers, it's over. Like, we might get some trades at some point, player here, player there. But, look, I always view the start of the new league year, personally speaking, as a marathon. It's a 26.2-mile race. So it's a long, hard race. I'm on mile 24 today. Like, I'm just telling you, like, that's where we're at right now.
Well, speaking of trades, obviously a big one yesterday for the Philadelphia Eagles. Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, for the second time in 3 years, departing the Philadelphia Eagles, being traded to the Houston Texans. I know the report is that it was strictly financial. Would love to get your insight on the trade that took place yesterday that caught a lot of people by surprise.
Well, I think that's what it was. Again, and we talked about this in NFL Live yesterday. I'm sure we'll talk about it more this offseason. But first of all, look at what's going on in San Francisco. Look at all the salaries they're shedding. And they're not even paying their quarterback yet. The Eagles are paying their quarterback and their running back and their two receivers and their offensive line. And they have Jalen Carter coming up and Nolan Smith coming up. And they just paid Zach Bond. Like, you can't pay everybody. It just doesn't work. And so, would they like to keep some of these? Of course. It's not practical. And so you have to start replenishing the cupboard with good young players that you hope you hit on the draft, and they've done a great job of doing that in recent years. And you start building up the draft picks because those players are young and foundational if you hit it right. And aside from that, they're on rookie contracts. So if we look at the Philadelphia Eagles in the next two drafts, they're scheduled with the compensatory draft picks that they'll get. And by the way, that doesn't even include one for Mekhi Becton, who we'll see what happens with his future. But right now, according to my calculations, they're scheduled to have 20 picks in the next 2 years. 20, including 11 in the first 4 rounds and 17 in the first 5 rounds. That's the next 2 years.
And that's when you're going to have to pay Jordan Davis. You're going to have to make the decision on that. Pay Jalen Carter a monster deal. There's a lot of young guys here you're going to have to pay, so that's probably a great strategy.
Mitchell,
yes, great strategy.
I mean, that's you're building. You're trying to win now. You're trying to maintain as best you can with an eye on the future, because there's no way everybody can get paid. It just doesn't work like that.
Now, to that point, Chauncey Gardner-Johnson wasn't necessarily breaking the bank.
Nope.
And so
it saved them $200,000 this year.
Yeah, that's not saving them a ton of money. And so, obviously we're reacting with Eagles fans on social media here, here on the radio station. And a lot of people keep on saying that Howie Roseman now has something up his sleeve. Well, if they're doing whatever they can to save $200,000, I can't imagine that they're going to go out there and try to sign one of the top safeties that are available in free agency. At least that's the read that I have on the situation. So is there another move up the sleeve of Howie Roseman to replace Chauncey Gardner-Johnson? Or do you believe they're going to continue to go with the youth that's currently in-house, like a player like Sidney Brown, who they drafted in the 3rd round a couple of years ago?
Sidney Brown, Reed Blankenship. I think they're more likely to shed more salary than acquire more salary. That's how I feel right now. Now, again, I don't think there's anything up their sleeve, like they're waiting to go. By the way, does all this now even shed more light on the acquisition of Myles Garrett that we wasted time talking about?
I refuse to even buy into it. Like, I refuse to even discuss it. Like, I rolled my eyes at it. They weren't doing that.
They were never doing that. They were unless somehow, inexplicably, it fell into their lap to where Cleveland had to trade the best defensive player in football, and he was mandating that it be Philadelphia. There's no chance. There was never a real. Anyway, so you're asking if there's a trick up their sleeve. No. Again, I think they're more likely to shed more salaries, make more moves the other way than more outgoing than incoming, I think.
So we should expect. Does that mean we're expecting a quiet next couple weeks as far as talent acquisition?
Look, I think they're going to be mining it, monitoring it, because once you get to this point, I know free agency opens today, but free agency's over in terms of the high-ticket items, basically. And once these players are sitting out on the street for a week or two, some of these guys that didn't get the deals that they wanted, at that point in time, there may be a player or two that say, you know what, I didn't get the contract I wanted. Let me sign a 1-year deal with a good team in a good organization where I'm going to get the right coaching, and let me hit it again next year, the free agent market. So maybe, and I'm not referring to anybody at all specifically, but every team does this. The Eagles are not unique in this. They're just waiting for guys' prices to come. Oh, I wasn't expecting to add player X, but he was only asking for $3 or $4 million a year. So how could I resist that? Do I think that that'll happen with the Eagles a couple of times? Yeah. I don't know who, but inevitably there are players sitting out there that price themselves too high that are still on the market right before the draft or right after the draft. And you know what? I'll take a flyer on this guy for $1.5 million, veteran minimum with upside. Why not? But are we sitting here today with some trick up their sleeve? No, I not that I know of.
Were you surprised that they did not retain some of the players that left for free agency? Not Josh Sweat, not Milton Williams. They got paid big money. Congratulations to them. But names like Isaiah Rodgers, who's going to Minnesota, reportedly. Darius Slay, reportedly to the Pittsburgh Steelers. Oren Burks to the Cincinnati Bengals, a depth guy that played a big role for them in the playoffs. Any of those names surprise you that they're not returning to Philadelphia?
Well, Darius Slay has not been officially released. He'll be released at 4 o'clock, and then after that he can begin to get his deal done with the Steelers. And, again, I think that's the full expectation, and we'll see if they can finish that off. Isaiah Rodgers was a guy they did want back, and they tried to get back. But the money got to a point where they didn't feel comfortable going to that spot. So he got a big deal in Minnesota. And I think that's a 6th-round compensatory draft pick for them. So I think they would like to have retained all these guys. Again, teams put a value on them that they couldn't keep up with right now.
Can I ask you a question about Myles Garrett situation, but not where it involves the Eagles? I don't know how he walks back into that organization after doing that embarrassing tour of Radio Row at the Super Bowl, and he's down there begging to go to a winning franchise, and I want to be a winner. And then he just re-ups because the money's there. And Max Crosby was doing the same type of crap to me. I'm like, how do you walk into your organization and say, no, this is where I really want to be, when it was just a load of garbage?
Well, I'll just say this to you. I think you see this happen over time. And, again, I'm just thinking of certain trade requests, public trade requests in recent years. I think Deebo Samuel said he wanted to be done with the Niners, and they paid him, and he came back. Brandon Ayuk, same thing. Lamar Jackson issued a trade request from the Ravens. Myles Garrett, Max Crosby had some interest. The point is, and I think it's important to remember this. This is a business, okay? And almost always, no matter what they say, usually money can get past it. Now, I do think there are certain situations, like Carson Palmer, where it gets beyond the money. But even then, when it gets beyond the money, oftentimes money can correct it. And so it's great fodder for shows like yours and mine that we can talk for endless hours about this guy's request, wants to be gone, where would he fit, what's going to happen. But let's also remember the next time we get one of these big trade requests that in football, the history has been that more often than not, the player winds up right back where than he is. Basketball is different, I think. But football, again, it just feels like it's almost like a playbook. Demand request. Say you won't play for the team. Hold out. Don't show up to the mini camps. Get new deal. Am I wrong?
No, you're not. No, you pretty much summed it up. And if you don't know it,
that's what John.
None of us know it.
That's what John Kincade did last week. He wasn't actually on vacation.
Yeah,
he was just holding out.
By the way, Adam, they should camp a reporter out at the resort I was at. I was in Jamaica, but at the resort there were Eagle Fred Johnson was in my building. Some Chiefs players were there, and I taught all the bartenders to say "Go Birds" to the Chiefs guys.
Yeah, and did they?
they did, and they got corrected by one of them to say, "Don't give me a Go Birds."
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Well, it was a good trip, John.
It was a great trip. Absolutely awesome.
And his contract got worked out. And that's why.
It was really a holdout.
Yeah, it was really a holdout.
And here he is back at the station after saying he never broadcast again, right?
You know what Masteller told me? He goes, "The world needs ditch diggers too." That's what he said.
Shefty, listen, man. We know
Thanks, Adam.
We know you're down to 2 miles left of your marathon.
Finish strong.
Finish strong, man. We appreciate it. And we'll talk to you next week.
Thanks, guys. Have a great week.
There you go.
There is Adam Schefter on the Comcast Business Hotline. Wow, is there stuff to react to?
There's
our conversation with Shefty.
He had a lot of stuff. He had a lot to say. Excellent.
They're not done yet,
but shedding salaries and word on what went down, who they wanted, who they didn't want it. That was awesome.
Yeah, but I go to this Justin Simmons. Oh, Justin Simmons.
Maybe not.
Maybe not. If they're looking to shed more.
Exactly. Well, maybe they can go short-term with Justin Simmons that doesn't affect anything that they're going to do down the line with other people.
How many more short-term contracts does a veteran want to take?
It's true. Well, I don't think he's getting a big one.
No, but what he got? I think 1 for 10 last year, something like that. I don't know. We'll see. We'll react to it coming up next. It is Kincade and Salciunas. Also, the thank you tweet from Chauncey Gardner-Johnson. We'll read that to you next year on 97.5 The Fanatic.
Mike Missanelli, Bill Colarulo, and
Schefter was just on with us last segment, earlier than normal on a Wednesday. He's got a busy day ahead of him. Obviously, today is the official day of free agency, even though he made it abundantly clear that the busy stuff already happened. And he said that all of it happened before Monday at 12 o'clock. Interesting.
Well, we knew that.
I know! They get rid of the term legal tampering.
It's
just
not that
open
big
the
of a
league
deal.
year. No, it's just stupid. It pisses me off, man.
Don't let that bother you.
That bothers me. Every year it bothers me. Anyways, Schefter normally joins us at 7:55. We will play it in its entirety at its normal scheduled time for the people that normally hear it then. But very interesting stuff from Schefter today. He believes that the Chauncey Gardner-Johnson trade was strictly financial because they got to be ready to pay Jalen Carter, Nolan Smith, Jordan Davis, and company down the road. I get it, even though the Chauncey Gardner-Johnson salary wasn't really, they didn't save all that much money getting rid of him.
No, they didn't at all.
He made it clear that they're not done yet. So Dallas Goedert's the first name that comes to my mind. Darius Slay, obviously that's going to happen. That will free up, I think it was $4 million in cap space for Darius
4.3, I believe.
For Slay,
Yes.
yeah. So Goddard, Slay, but who else? Like, are there more? I can't see anybody on offense unless it's like, I don't know what Dotson's cap situation is. Like, I really don't. They're not going to move on from A.J. Brown or Devontae Smith or any of the key guys on offense.
I honestly, when he said it, I started bouncing around in my head going, okay, people are going to lose their minds if they're starting to get rid of. I don't know who the other guys would be.
Right.
That you'd be thinking about getting rid of.
And my man Chip Reederson checked it. He goes, well, is it Goddard or is it another surprise? And I said,
well, Goddard's wanted. I think everybody's of the agreement that he's going to be gone.
it's probably going to happen. Yeah. Or was it McClain said that maybe they restructure. If he's going to test the market,
and then maybe
and if it's not there, restructure with the Eagles, which would help probably the cap in the long run.
Sure.
But
which would be shedding salary.
which would be. But also, nobody, not a single reporter, name me the reporter that whispered Chauncey Gardner-Johnson could be traded.
No one locally had it. No one nationally had it.
So could there be another surprise down the road? I don't know.
Could there be? Sure. I just can't figure out where it would be. Because honestly, the contracts that they've got sitting in place right now look pretty damn good to me.
Yeah.
I mean, where they're at. Now they've got a plan, and they do have the ability now. The Jalen Carter contract's going to be monster, and that's
it's going to be
and that's
huge.
next off season.
Yeah.
Like you're going to go to no, wait a minute. I don't know if that will be. I think you can only extend him in his fourth year. I'm not sure if he can do it after 3.
I imagine
But
they're going to start they'll start
knows
talking
that.
next year.
Somebody knows that. Maybe you can. Maybe it's after the 3rd year on a rookie deal because they're absolutely going to exercise his 5th-year option, and they'll extend him. So it would be after his 3rd year. They'll exercise probably the 5th-year option, but they'll make a big payday out of it.
Right.
This is intriguing stuff, and I do like the core they have, though. I mean, I like the core of talent that this team has, but am I confident that this team is a Super Bowl winner next year? Hell no, not right now.
And look, right now, I'm not going to make that determination
exactly.
just yet.
But
I mean,
not
you
right
still
now.
have
I need to
your
see a lot.
core. You still have
Yes.
a big core. Anthony DeBona, by the way, who does stuff for the Philadelphia Sports Network, he chimed in the Dotson. If Dotson, like again, that's the first name that. Who am I not thinking about that could be moved? He would save $2.7 million if you moved on from Dotson, but.
I don't even know that that's worth it.
No, exactly.
You
Especially,
gave up, by the way, especially when you gave up a 3rd-round draft pick for him.
right? And you have another. You have a full year of him with a new system. Let's see what it looks like. Also, they wanted Isaiah Rodgers back. Schefter made that very clear that they wanted Isaiah Rodgers back.
They did.
The market got too steep. They couldn't pull the trigger. He goes to Minnesota. Good for him to get paid. But I wonder if. I'm not going to say they got caught with their pants down, but they clearly wanted to go a specific route. They wanted to do the Mitchell on one side, Rodgers on the other, DeJean in the slot. He got paid, kind of, by Minnesota. So now they're probably thinking, all right, what do we do next? And that's when you start getting the Keely Ringo stuff. Keely Ringo wasn't their first option now,
No.
let alone last year.
No.
All right. Coming up next, we continue reacting. We continue talking to you. We'll check our text line next at 610-632-0975. This Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, thank you. And I have a question about next year and 2026. It is Kincade and Salciunas. Andrew DeCo joins us for 2 hours, 8 o'clock till the end of the show today here on 97.5 The Fanatic.
Fanatic Sports Update.
A shocking move at safety. I'm Connor Thomas, and the Birds surprised the whole fan base yesterday, sending Chauncey Gardner-Johnson and a sixth-rounder in the 2026 draft to the Houston Texans for guard Kenyan Green and a 2026 fifth-round pick. Green, a first-round pick in the 22 NFL draft, has been underwhelming in Houston. He is on the final year of his rookie deal, so it gives Howie a little bit more room to work with. We'll see how that plays out. But John Clark of NBC joined the best show ever yesterday to react to the trade.
The CJ-GJ thing surprised me. Now, the only thing I can think is that they believe that there are some younger players, that the level of play is not a tremendous difference, whereas the salary is.
The Eagles also lost running back depth as Kenny Gainwell will be signing with the Steelers, so Howie's got some work to do as the offseason continues. The Flyers fell to the Senators 5-2 last night. Sixers will take on the Raptors tonight at 7:30. You can hear that game live here on 97.5 The Fanatic. Andrew DeCo will join us from 8 o'clock until the end of the show. This update is brought to you by our friends over at Rapid Radios. Their instant push-to-talk walkie-talkies offering national LTE coverage. For a limited time, go to rapidradios.com now for 60% off and free UPS shipping. Add code radio and get an extra 5% off. I'm Connor Thomas for the home of the 76ers and Flyers, 97.5 The Fanatic, and 97.5thefanatic.com.
On Kincade and Salciunas, 97.5 The Fanatic. So from 8 to 10, or a little after 8, our man Andrew DeCo is going to be joining us for the entirety of the show. So the last 2 hours of the show.
Wasn't expected to join us today, but it's a good reason to join us today.
So you get it, being a dad.
Yes.
Coop is under the weather. And
You better get that right before vacation.
well, yeah, exactly.
Come on, dude.
And my wife and I both work. And we both work weird hours. She's a nurse, so she's at 12-hour days. I'm here at 5 in the morning. She leaves the house at 6, right? And so somebody had to stay home. It was going to be me. Shout out to her boss for giving her the day off today and switching her to work Friday, because today was a big day that I did not want to miss. But originally, I was going to miss it, and it was going to be you and Connor with Andrew DeCo for the entire show. So there's probably somebody driving right now going, damn it.
That could have been a great show.
That's what I wanted.
Connor did say to me, he goes, that sounds like a great show.
Yeah,
So
we were hoping.
You'll at least get 2 hours of that coming up starting at 8 o'clock. But before he comes on, we're going to replay the Adam Schefter interview, because for a lot of you, you are used to hearing Schefty around 7:55. He had to come on a little bit earlier today because of his busy schedule as free agency begins today at 4 o'clock, even though, everything's already done. And Schefty told us he's at mile 24 of his 26.2-mile marathon.
Yes.
So it's pretty much done. All right, real quick before we get to some of our text messages, and I do have a question for you guys. The thank you message from Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, a lot different than last time. Remember, last time he was very clearly upset and then took shots at Philadelphia.
Well, no, somebody stole his car.
No, that happened during the season.
Yeah, but I mean, so he had every reason to bitch about that.
He said at one point, bleep Philly, man.
Yeah, he did.
But anyways, the message yesterday, thank you, Philly. You've been more than a city to me. You've been home. From the moment I stepped onto Lincoln Financial Field, I knew I'd find a place where passion isn't just celebrated, it's demanded. And I gave everything, every snap, every hit, every ounce in my bones. Ad lib here for a second. He did do that. He did give every bit of energy to the Eagles, which is
No
part of the reason
question.
why I'm so upset today.
Now, though he did not have as good a year as he had in 22,
No.
but he came up big. As the season went along, he got better and better.
You know what the moment was? That hit against the Panthers, against Xavier Leggett.
That was huge.
And then it just changed everything. This decision wasn't mine, but I walk away proud of what we built together. Becoming a 2-time NFC champion and a Super Bowl champion, the forced fumbles and game-sealing interceptions, those moments belong to us. You taught me that greatness isn't just about highlights. It's about clawing back harder and fiercer, just like the city does every day. To my teammates, brothers, we bled, cursed, and laughed through it all. To the coaches and front office, thank you for trusting a kid from Florida with a chip on his shoulder to lead the defense. And to the Philly faithful, you're unmatched. You embraced my edge and fire for this game, even when I got too hot. Philly, you helped me carve my name into this league, but this isn't goodbye. It's thank you. Look, he would get heated. We've seen him get kicked out of games. We've seen him battle the Swifties. We've seen him literally bring a belt to a parade. I love a lot of that about Chauncey Gardner-Johnson.
I do too.
And I am going to be sad to see him no longer with the Philadelphia Eagles.
I think it's a loss, and the thing is that's one of the things that really pays off is that you can be objective. You can say, yeah, I trust Vic Fangio to develop talent. I trust that Jeff Stoutland can develop talent. I think all those things. But bottom line, you can still hate what went down yesterday.
Yeah, and I do. And so I have a question for you both.
Okay.
So they're talking about this was a financial decision, right? They've
Yes.
made that clear. Schefter even said they made it clear. Schefter's talking about shedding salary. They have a great core still. The offense is prolific as
They have
long
a
as
great core.
as long as Kevin Patullo can call the plays. We have to see that.
Which, by the way, I think the pressure on Kevin Patullo is now through the roof.
Well, because he might not have the number one ranked defense.
Yes.
As a little security blanket. I want to ask this question. I know Howie said at the combine to be patient. Now, patience is, to me, you're not going to go out there and be big spenders. Patience, to me, is not being surprised by moves. And the Chauncey Gardner-Johnson move was a surprise to me. Are they almost telling us, no, they're not going to be bad next year, but hey, expect a bit of a dip, and we'll be back in 2026. I'm not saying they're punting the season because they're still very good.
No, they're still very good. But no, I think they're saying if you don't expect a little dip again, I think you're just being Pollyanna.
But
That's why there's going to be a little dip because you cannot lose. And I said it yesterday before C.J. Gardner-Johnson left.
Yeah.
All the people doing Milton Williams gone, or we'll be fine, no problem. We're not going to miss these guys at all. You are absolutely the biggest pom-pom shaking, Kool-Aid drinking fan out there if you're trotting that out there more today.
But how do you
You've
feel
lost a
about the
ton.
team? How do you feel about the team
I feel
telling us without telling us that, hey, we're still going to be good?
I'm fine with it.
The whole D word that we're talking about, it might not be back-to-back, but it might be 2 and 3 years.
I'm fine with it. Absolutely 100% fine with it because I want to not be the Washington Commanders.
Yeah, with what they did.
I don't want to be we've got young guys, we've got contracts in order. The Eagles have never been in a better position to just have that young foundation of talent and to add to it. And all those draft picks, what do you say, 17 over the next 2 years?
20, 17 in the first 5 rounds.
Okay. It's going to be freaking, there's a lot of opportunities.
6 of those 5th-round picks are in this year alone.
No, but the thing is, though, and that'll be used, I'm sure that's going to be used to move around.
Yeah.
And things like that. Look, I'm fine. And I wouldn't be surprised you're trading back some of those 5th-rounders because they don't have a pick after the 5th round.
Right.
So you trade back a little bit to get somebody to give you a 5th or a 6th next year, whatever it is.
Connor, how do you feel about it if they're basically telling us without straight up selling us, expect a dip, we're going to build for more down the road, but this year, not a punt year, they're going to win the division. They're going to host a playoff game. But we're not going to be as dominant as last year.
Yeah, my answer to that is duh.
Yeah, as expected.
You two have both pulled a duh today, by the way.
Right.
I feel like I'm back at St. Annie's.
I called the Eagles the best team in the history of football, this past year's team. They weren't going to do that 2 years in a row. That's not possible.
In this environment.
Yeah, in any
of the
environment.
NFL. No, in the NFL. Some teams have done that.
Not that level that they went out and they demolished 2 teams in the final 2 biggest games of the year. There was no possible way to repeat the performance from this past year. Can they still win it all? Absolutely. Can they still be a great team? Absolutely. But they weren't going to look the same. That's the reality of winning the Super Bowl with the team that you did. So you got to put faith in Howie that he's going to be able to figure it out again, and I still have that faith.
Now, I see a tweet from the NBA Slime. I love NBA Slime.
I think NBA Slime's a pretty entertaining guy.
Yep, and I love his dad. Dad's a very nice man. I believe.
I have not met him. I have met him?
You have.
Okay. Look, I learn something new every day.
So the NBA Slime just tweeted, didn't tag us or anything, but I just saw a tweet. Eagles fans are definitely not used to being champions. I understand that part, but the follow-up I don't agree with. They can go 0-17 this year and we're still happy. It's okay, everyone, relax. Please can't stress it enough.
No, that's not. That's not
my
true.
brother, I know you're probably over-exaggerating a little bit. If they go 9-8, we're not happy.
No. This town is not. By the way, if you follow up the greatest team in NFL history, like some people were discussing, like best Super Bowl team ever, and then you go 9-8, that's an abysmal failure. That is an abysmal failure.
Yeah.
Don't use any other words for it.
And we did that exercise.
And nobody's going to be happy. They missed the playoffs. Nobody's going to be happy. Enough of that crap.
We did that exercise. The guy that did the last 25 champions and ranked them, and the Eagles were number 1, according to this guy. Connor said, hey, look at 2 through 5. What did they do the next year? I think 3 of the 4 went back to the Super Bowl the next year. So don't give me we'll be okay regardless of what happens next year.
Don't say that.
Because if I see Sidney Brown make bad plays, I will be upset by it. Because I will say, you could have had that Chauncey Gardner-Johnson fella for the $200,000 that you saved. All right, coming up next, who's Kenyan Green? We'll tell you about him next. That's the player they acquired in the Chauncey Gardner-Johnson trade. Don't forget, we'll replay if you missed it, the Adam Schefter interview. It was a great one today at 7:55. It's Kincade Salciunas, 97.5, The Fanatic. 97.5 The Fanatic. Still reacting to the Chauncey Gardner-Johnson trade. Happened right after the show. Johnny Schefter reported to me.
Oh, my God.
I was on the phone with my wife just telling her that I was coming home. And I was
Hi,
like,
honey, I'm
I was
coming
like,
home.
I was like, I just missed a call from John. Let me call him. They traded Chauncey. I was like, get the hell out of here. You lying. You lying son
Now,
of a-
I will tell you that my bride, when she heard the news, goes, the guy's always about drama. I'm glad he's gone. And I said, there's a difference between the drama and the great football player. And though he didn't have as great a year as 2022, he was still, when they needed him to be the most, he was great.
I would tell you that my best friend is an anti-Chauncey Gardner-Johnson
Same thing,
guy.
but is it the same reasoning as my wife?
He annoys him.
Yeah.
Antics and all kinds of stuff.
My wife goes, he looks like he should be on, the way he conducts himself, he should be on one of those Real Housewives shows. I mean, that's the kind of guy he is. It's
you know
always going to be drama. It's always got to be.
Sometimes I'm cool with that with my safety as long as you're playing well. Here's a legitimate concern I have. So Blankenship and Chauncey Gardner-Johnson are a good pairing.
Sure.
Blankenship can just be the let me put my head down and go knock somebody out. Chauncey Gardner-Johnson's got the rest over the top. Sidney Brown is what Reed Blankenship is to an extent. So now I got two guys that are just going to get after it. What are you squinting over there?
I think Reed is better in coverage than you give him credit
I think
for.
Reed is better in coverage, too.
Okay.
I'll give you a squint both on those. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm Team Connor this morning.
Yeah, here's the thing with Chauncey Gardner-Johnson. I'm getting the vibe of from the fan base reaction. This is more upset about the personality leaving than the player leaving.
No.
Okay, go further with that.
Go
Go
ahead.
further with that.
We love the guy. Like, he fits the city really well with this personality and the vibe. The thing that you bring up first every time you talk about why Chauncey Gardner-Johnson was so important for this team was that San Francisco incident where they walked through the defensive backs drill and nobody did anything. But John brought up the point earlier that he wasn't great for a big part of the start of the season. I mean, the guy is not like an all-pro safety, and he's a good player. Like, I'm not saying Chauncey Gardner-Johnson stinks. You won't miss him on the field. Sidney Brown is not Chauncey Gardner-Johnson. But I think if you separate the personality from the player and he's just player X with the numbers that he puts up, I think he's semi-replaceable.
He had 6 picks again last year.
I got you.
No, I think
And
he's,
how many of those
no,
did
I
he
think
steal
he's-
out of the arms of Kenyan Mitchell?
No, but I do believe he's semi replaceable.
Like, not easily, but it's
Correct.
not Dawkins, right?
Right, exactly.
Like, he's a guy that there are other safeties of that caliber in the league that you can
I
find.
understand they tried replacing him 2 seasons ago. It did not work well.
Yeah,
so
and
they will try again.
Why did it not work well? Because personality kind of left, and also your defense coordinator had no idea what he was doing.
And that's why with Vic Fangio, I feel much more confident they're ready to hit.
And also, personality-wise, this defense is much different. Think about Kenyan Mitchell talking trash to A.J. Brown right off the bat when he was a rookie. Think about Jalen Carter not being a rookie anymore, but now being a guy in this league that can talk his talk. Like, think about Zach Bond and the confidence he's going to have on a big contract coming off of an all-pro year. Like, they have dogs on this defense. This is not the rollover defense of the 2023 Eagles. Like, they have some guys that can fill that role of fire on this defense now more than they did the last time Chauncey Gardner-Johnson walked out of town.
Okay, now here's one, too, that I think it should be slightly offensive. I laugh a little bit. And Andrew, not you, Andrew, shares with Twitter DM, saying, yeah, what we went from was a best lockdown secondary in the NFL to now we're counting on 2 white guys to bring the intimidation factor. He goes, I'm just being honest. You lost dogs back there, and the white guys aren't bringing it like
Hang
that.
on.
I don't look.
Yeah.
I don't. I'm not looking at it at all. I'm
Okay,
looking at it as
look, he laughs a little bit. He goes, I'm not trying to stir the pot. He goes, but I'm not thinking that the exciting whites are going to be intimidating people. That's what he's saying.
I'm not worried about that.
He's
Yeah,
missing.
don't worry,
He's
Jalen
missing
Carter
the
will intimidate.
But he's missing. No, he's talking secondary.
Okay.
And he's saying the intimidation factor was there. Chauncey Gardner-Johnson would take your head off.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Darius Slay's in your face constantly.
Not a thought that
Yes, I think
once
look,
came to my mind.
Now, I mean, look at that. And he says, I love the show. He goes, I just wanted to bring that other
appreciate you listening.
Because I just want to bring that other perspective.
Not even a remote, not even thought that came to my mind
Right.
at all.
That's what he's saying. Too
but
many
here-
white guys in the secondary.
No, here's how I look at it. Too many unknowns in the secondary. Keely Ringo and Sidney Brown or Trisha McCollum or you name it. That's what I'm concerned about. Not
I am too. Not the
that
racial
DM.
makeup of my secondary.
No. All right, Kenyan Green is the player they traded for. In case you guys want to know a little bit about Kenyan Green, the Eagles actually traded the pick to the Texans, in which they selected him. It was day one. This is courtesy of Reuben Frank on NBC Sports Philadelphia. Thank you, Rube. On day one of the 2022 NFL Draft, the Eagles traded picks 15, 124, 162, and 166 to the Texans to move up to get Jordan Davis.
Okay.
Which is when you and I both thought they were moving up to get Kyle Hamilton. The pick that the Texans got, pick 15, was when they drafted Kenyan Green. So a first-round pick, middle of the first round. He struggled. 14 games at left guard as a rookie and had a bad year. Among 65 guards who played at least 500 snaps, his 37.7 Pro Football Focus grade ranked last. I'm not a big PFF guy, but that doesn't sound good. He allowed 47 quarterback pressures, fourth most among guards. He committed 12 penalties, tied for second most among guards. That's not good.
Yeah.
He missed his entire 2023 season with a shoulder injury. He returned in 2024. All right, bounce back, right? That 37.7 Pro Football Focus grade went up to a 38.6.
Oh, boy.
Lowest grade among guards. This time, 66 guards who played at least 500 snaps. He allowed 28 pressures and committed 7 penalties. And then he got hurt again. Not good. But maybe Jeff Stoutland can
I'm
fix
going
him like he can fix many people.
I'll tell you this. I'm really going to trust Jeff Stoutland to develop a talent. And more importantly, I think to develop another backup talent, which is what Becton was supposed to be.
Correct.
And then Becton ended up outplaying him in training
Right,
camp.
Steen could still end up being the starter, but then it sucks even more that you traded Chauncey away for a backup and a fifth-round pick.
Well, then it's just a salary move, right? Exactly. So that whole idea that it's for cap space is not wrong.
I have a hard time just believing that.
Why?
Because they barely saved anything.
Yeah, that's too short-sighted. You can't look at the cap number now. You've got
to think about down the road. But again,
you didn't need to.
You didn't have to do that yesterday.
Unless you thought he was going to be discontented by not getting paid the amount that you could pay
And that
him,
is a great
and that
point.
was going to cost you an opportunity. Chauncey Gardner-Johnson is not a guy that goes quietly on anything.
Okay, remember, you can't sit out. You can't. The only dope who's done that has been Hassan Reddick. The only dope
I got you.
who literally said, because he was so embarrassed by his terrible negotiating skills, that he's going to be the guy to do it. Players don't sit out.
Yeah, but he doesn't have to sit out. He has a podcast. He's going to tweet. It's going to be a weird situation if that dude is unhappy in your locker room.
Okay, is it going to balance out the fact of what you're not getting from him?
Well, that's the risk that they're taking right now, it seems like.
And I don't like the
it
risk.
is. And I don't like the risk either.
I don't think that's wrong to not like the risk. I don't like it. And they're doing the whole financial, but don't worry. Like John Clark, we've played the audio. You've been playing your updates. They believe in the young guys they have. I have not seen enough. This is my opinion. I have not seen enough from Sidney Brown to replace him, Chauncey Gardner-Johnson. I've not seen enough from Keely Ringo to replace Darius Slay, Isaiah Rodgers.
And more importantly, Tyrone made a great point yesterday again. Last year, when Vic Fangio had a chance to believe in these guys, he didn't believe in them. So now, why are you saying you do? Because Vic showed us by his own behaviors that he didn't.
He's got a full off season of work.
Just don't be Pollyanna about it.
All right, coming up next.
Have doubts.
The interview with Schefter was spectacular. We will play it again coming up next. He normally joins us in the following segment, but because of the busy day ahead for him, he had to join us a little bit earlier today. So if you missed it, or if you're used to hearing Schefter coming up next, you will here on Kincade Salciunas, 97.5 The Fanatic.
Fanatic Sports Update.
Trade with the Texans. I'm Connor Thomas, and the Birds made a shocking trade yesterday with Houston, sending Chauncey Gardner-Johnson down to the Lone Star State. They also sent a 6th-round pick in the 2026 draft. They received back a 5th-round pick in the 2026 draft and former first-round pick guard Kenyan Green. Now, Green was the first-round selection of the Texans in the 2022 NFL draft, and he's been underwhelming in Houston. He's on the final year of his rookie deal heading into this season. John Clark of NBC joined the best show ever yesterday to react to the trade.
The CJ-GJ thing surprised me. Now, the only thing I can think is that they believe that there are some younger players, that the level of play is not a tremendous difference, whereas the salary is.
So, is it a cap move? We'll see how this plays out the rest of the offseason. The Eagles also lost running back depth. Kenny Gainwell will be signing with the Pittsburgh Steelers. Howie Roseman definitely has work cut out for him as the offseason continues. Flyers fell to the Senators 5-2 last night. Sixers will take on the Raptors tonight at 7:30. You can hear that game live here on The Fanatic. Andrew DeCo will join us in the 8 o'clock hour and stay till the end of the show. This update is brought to you by Groundworks, your expert for basement waterproofing and foundation repair since 1997. Book your free inspection at groundworks.com. I'm Connor Thomas for the home of the 76ers and Flyers, 97.5 The Fanatic and 97.5thefanatic.com.
It's 97.5 The Fanatic. Forgot to mention, knockout, of course, in 14 days, 2 weeks from now.
Wow.
Will be the knockout after the Sixers play the Wizards. So go to the contest page, 975thefanatic.com, and enter today's keyword star. Like John Kincade is a star.
Oh, yeah.
STAR.
Big star.
Enter that until the end of the show, and you'll be in the running for the pair of tickets, plus the spot and knockout following the game on Wednesday, March 26th. Knockout. I've been to every single one, but last year's was special to me, Johnny.
Why? Because of Tommy Albert?
No. It was the first late night event that I had to go to or watch of our morning show life.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it's
right. Like the first Sunday
night,
the first Sunday night football game, I was like, oh my God, I got to get up in a couple hours.
See, to me, it's always the Sunday night football game, then leads to the Monday afternoon nap.
Yeah, exactly.
Because I'm usually all wired for the show.
Right.
And then noon hits, and I'm not even going to catch Young and the rest.
Right. And knockout.
I'm going to rest.
Knockout doesn't end till close to after 11, maybe, and then by the time you get home, it's midnight. You're like, oh no, the alarm's going off soon.
Well, that's only if you stay in long like me. You can get out of there.
I stay in long all the time. I am going to target your ass this year in knockout.
Buddy,
I will be behind you, and I am taking you out.
Everyone targets me every year. I'm still standing there at the end.
I am standing behind you. You know what? You've talked a lot of smack.
Well, now I'm uncomfortable
about knockout. I am going to stand directly behind you. No buffer. Right behind you.
That's it. That is the challenge right
marked.
there. No separation, none of that. And by the way, no one's pulling any of this Colarulo crap this year.
Yeah, where his wife helped him cheat.
Is not getting. The Colarulos are separated. If she's participating, they are separated by somebody.
Exactly.
So there's no collaboration. So Bill
she can
find
shoot
his
though.
way in. By the way, she's an athlete.
She only missed when Bill missed. It was interesting.
She's an athlete, I guarantee it.
All right, you're listening to 97.5 The Fanatic, WPEN HD1 Burlington, Philadelphia, Beasley Media Group Station, broadcasting live from the Comcast Business Studio, powering possibilities. He joined us an hour ago, had to do an earlier hit today, but we don't want to change the way the show goes on Wednesday. So Adam Schefter joined us earlier to talk about all the moves that the Eagles have made, didn't make, and, of course, the trade of Chauncey Gardner-Johnson. Thanks to our friends at Landis Block. Create your very own jaw-dropping backyard paradise online at landisbc.com. They're the people that bring us Adam Schefter on a weekly basis. Here he is. Shefty, good morning.
Gentlemen, what is going on?
Yeah, happy free agency day, Shefty.
I got to tell you something, guys. I know free agency opens at 4 o'clock today. Free agency closes. It's over, okay?
Yeah, it happened Monday at 12 o'clock.
No. It happened. It happened the last week. It happened Sunday. It happened Monday. It happened Tuesday. It's over
Illegally.
With the exception of Aaron Rodgers and Russell Wilson and some quarterback drama, some veteran wide receivers, it's over. We might get some trades at some point, player here, player there, but look, I always view the start of the new league year, personally speaking, as a marathon. It's a 26.2-mile race, so it's a long, hard race. I'm on mile 24 today. I'm just telling you, that's where we're at right now.
Well, speaking of trades, obviously a big one yesterday for the Philadelphia Eagles. Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, for the second time in 3 years, departing the Philadelphia Eagles, being traded to the Houston Texans. I know the report is that it was strictly financial. Would love to get your insight on the trade that took place yesterday that caught a lot of people by surprise.
Well, I think that's what it was. Again, and we talked about this in NFL Live yesterday. I'm sure we'll talk about it more this offseason. But first of all, look at what's going on in San Francisco. Look at all the salaries they're shedding. And they're not even paying their quarterback yet. The Eagles are paying their quarterback and their running back and their two receivers and their offensive line. And they have Jalen Carter coming up and Nolan Smith coming up. And they just paid Zach Bond. You can't pay everybody. It just doesn't work. And so, would they like to keep some of these? Of course. It's not practical. And so you have to start replenishing the cupboard with good young players that you hope you hit on the draft, and they've done a great job of doing that in recent years. And you start building up the draft picks because those players are young and foundational if you hit it right. And aside from that, they're on rookie contracts. So if we look at the Philadelphia Eagles in the next 2 drafts, they're scheduled with the compensatory draft picks that they'll get. And by the way, that doesn't even include one for Mekhi Becton, who we'll see what happens with his future. But right now, according to my calculations, they're scheduled to have 20 picks in the next 2 years. 20, including 11 in the first 4 rounds and 17 in the first 5 rounds. That's the next 2 years.
And that's when you're going to have to pay Jordan Davis. You're going to have to make the decision on that. Pay Jalen Carter a monster deal. There's a lot of young guys here you're going to have to pay, so that's probably a great strategy.
Mitchell,
yes,
DeJean.
great strategy.
I mean, that's you're building. You're trying to win now. You're trying to maintain as best you can with an eye on the future, because there's no way everybody can get paid. It just doesn't work like that.
Now, to that point, Chauncey Gardner-Johnson wasn't necessarily breaking the bank.
Nope.
And so
it saved them $200,000 this year.
Yeah, that's not saving them a ton of money. And so, obviously we're reacting with Eagles fans on social media here, here on the radio station. And a lot of people keep on saying that Howie Roseman now has something up his sleeve. Well, if they're doing whatever they can to save $200,000, I can't imagine that they're going to go out there and try to sign one of the top safeties that are available in free agency. At least that's the read that I have on the situation. So is there another move up the sleeve of Howie Roseman to replace Chauncey Gardner-Johnson? Or do you believe they're going to continue to go with the youth that's currently in-house, like a player like Sidney Brown, who they drafted in the 3rd round a couple of years ago?
Sidney Brown, Reed Blankenship. I think they're more likely to shed more salary than acquire more salary. That's how I feel right now. Now, again, I don't think there's anything up their sleeve, like they're waiting to go. By the way, does all this now even shed more light on the acquisition of Myles Garrett that we wasted time talking about?
I refuse to even buy into it. Like, I refuse to even discuss it. Like, I rolled my eyes at it. They weren't doing that.
They were never doing that. They were unless somehow, inexplicably, it fell into their lap to where Cleveland had to trade the best defensive player in football, and he was mandating that it be Philadelphia. There's no chance. There was never a real. Anyway, so you're asking if there's a trick up their sleeve. No. Again, I think they're more likely to shed more salaries, make more moves the other way than more outgoing than incoming, I think.
So we should expect. Does that mean we're expecting a quiet next couple weeks as far as talent acquisition?
Look, I think they're going to be mining it, monitoring it, because once you get to this point, I know free agency opens today, but free agency's over in terms of the high-ticket items, basically. And once these players are sitting out on the street for a week or two, some of these guys that didn't get the deals that they wanted, at that point in time, there may be a player or two that say, you know what, I didn't get the contract I wanted. Let me sign a 1-year deal with a good team in a good organization where I'm going to get the right coaching, and let me hit it again next year, the free agent market. So maybe, and I'm not referring to anybody at all specifically, but every team does this. The Eagles are not unique in this. They're just waiting for guys' prices to come. Oh, I wasn't expecting to add player X, but he was only asking for $3 or $4 million a year. So how could I resist that? Do I think that that'll happen with the Eagles a couple of times? Yeah. I don't know who, but inevitably there are players sitting out there that price themselves too high that are still on the market right before the draft or right after the draft. And you know what? I'll take a flyer on this guy for $1.5 million, veteran minimum with some upside. Why not? But are we sitting here today with some trick up their sleeve? No, I not that I know of.
Were you surprised that they did not retain some of the players that left for free agency? Not Josh Sweat, not Milton Williams. They got paid big money. Congratulations to them. But names like Isaiah Rodgers, who's going to Minnesota, reportedly. Darius Slay, reportedly to the Pittsburgh Steelers. Oren Burks to the Cincinnati Bengals, a depth guy that played a big role for them in the playoffs. Any of those names surprise you that they're not returning to Philadelphia?
Well, Darius Slay has not been officially released. He'll be released at 4 o'clock, and then after that he can begin to get his deal done with the Steelers. And again, I think that's the full expectation, and we'll see if they can finish that off. Isaiah Rodgers was a guy they did want back, and they tried to get back. But the money got to a point where they didn't feel comfortable going to that spot. So he got a big deal in Minnesota. And I think that's a 6th-round compensatory draft pick for them. So I think they would like to have retained all these guys. Again, teams put a value on them that they couldn't keep up with right now.
Can I ask you a question about Myles Garrett situation, but not where it involves the Eagles? I don't know how he walks back into that organization after doing that embarrassing tour of Radio Row at the Super Bowl, and he's down there begging to go to a winning franchise, and I want to be a winner. And then he just re-ups because the money's there. And Max Crosby was doing the same type of crap to me. I'm like, how do you walk into your organization and say, no, this is where I really want to be, when it was just a load of garbage?
Well, I'll just say this to you. I think you see this happen over time. And, again, I'm just thinking of certain trade requests, public trade requests in recent years. I think Deebo Samuel said he wanted to be done with the Niners, and they paid him, and he came back. Brandon Ayuk, same thing. Lamar Jackson issued a trade request from the Ravens. Myles Garrett, Max Crosby had some interest. The point is, and I think, it's important to remember this. This is a business, okay? And almost always, no matter what they say, usually money can get past it. Now, I do think there are certain situations, like Carson Palmer, where it gets beyond the money. But even then, when it gets beyond the money, oftentimes money can correct it. And so it's great fodder for shows like yours and mine that we can talk for endless hours about this guy's request, wants to be gone, where would he fit, what's going to happen. But let's also remember the next time we get one of these big trade requests that in football, the history has been that more often than not, the player winds up right back where that he is. Basketball is different, I think. But football, again, it just feels like it's almost like a playbook. Demand request. Say you won't play for the team. Hold out. Don't show up to the mini camps. Get new deal. Am I wrong?
No, you're not. No, you pretty much summed it up. And if you don't know it,
that's what John.
None of us know it.
That's what John Kincade did last week. He wasn't actually on vacation. Shefty, listen, man. We know
Thanks, Adam.
We know you're down to 2 miles left of your marathon.
Finish strong.
Finish strong, man. We appreciate it. We'll talk to you next week.
Thanks, guys. Have a great week.
All right, there's Adam Schefter, who joined us earlier today. You can hear the whole thing on 97.5thefanatic.com. You can check it out on the YouTube page, you name it. All right, now until the end of the show.
He had a lot to say.
He did. We'll be joined by Andrew DeCo, who has
got
a lot to say.
Yeah.
So coming up next, we'll get his reaction to the trade. Earlier, we gave our theories on the trade. We'll go through those later on the 8 o'clock hour as well with Andrew, who's playing next season. I mean, there's a million questions that I have from a trade that nobody caught wind of. Andrew DeCo joins us starting next for the rest of the show here on Kincade Salciunas, 97.5 The Fanatic.
The Philadelphia 76ers.
Sixers win. 97.5 The Fanatic on this Championship Wednesday morning. Despite how we're feeling from the news that took place right after the show ended yesterday, the Eagles trading Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, and in return, they get a Kenyan Green, a guard, who is one of the worst graded guards in the NFL, and a 5th-round pick, and we're being told it was for financial purposes. So let's go to one of our insiders, Johnny.
Our family member.
Not on the Comcast Business Hotline. Here in studio from now until the end of the show, our man Andrew DeCo joins us. Andrew, again, thank you for being a part of the show today.
Thank you for being a friend.
I'm sorry for the song and dance yesterday. I explained to the audience that you were supposed to be here for 4 hours for like a whole 30 minutes until things changed, and I am now working today.
I'm sure a lot of the audience might be wiping their brow like, thank God.
No. I think there's a lot of people that were upset that I ended up coming in. So your reaction. We'll have more time over the course of the show to follow up and ask questions and what's next and what are they going to do. But when you saw the news yesterday, heard the news yesterday, what was your immediate reaction, and what do you believe, don't you believe about the reporting that's being done about this being strictly financial?
Yeah, I was stunned, obviously, and that's something that came out of left field. None of us saw that coming. He wasn't a player that was on the trade block. There was no conversations that he was on the outs, he wanted more money, whatever the case was. So when you see a player like that obviously made such a big impact, initially you're like, whoa, what's going on here? Is there something more beyond? Look, it's beyond what we were talking about last week when we were doing the news desk thing.
Yeah.
You start to make some calls and do your reporting on that. But it is financially. It's for cash relief, and I know that there's minimal relief this year, but it's about sustaining this, keeping that nucleus intact so that the Eagles can continue to be viable contenders in 2026 and 2027, trying to build it the right way so that you can extend Jalen Carter, so you can extend Reed Blankenship, who's eligible for an extension, Cam Jurgens. It's really tough. Jalen Carter next year as well. He's going to get an exorbitant amount of money, and in order to do that, they're trying to cut costs wherever they can and be mindful of, let's try to keep our homegrown nucleus in place so that we can continue to be a force.
But my thing is, my question, because I see, Connor, I see out of the corner of my eye, you're emphatic
you were meant
nodding.
to see.
You're annoying the hell out of me with the nodding
Sorry,
about
I'm
the
right.
Chauncey. Hold on. Was this a good move? Was this the right move? Was this the right guy to cut ties with?
And for this year, it's only $200,000.
Right,
So you can't be nodding to this.
Yeah, like this, like
it's $200,000.
Wow.
But I think
now they can increase beer sales by 50 cents or decrease beer sales by 50
But I think when you're
cents.
parsing the roster and you're trying to figure out who's going to be here, who's going to be part of our nucleus moving forward, he's 27 years old. You have players like Jalen Carter who's going to get – look, you saw what Bill Williams got. He's going to get plenty more than that.
Right.
It's really tough, and I heard you guys talking on my ride in. You were trying to rack your brain about who else could be on the outs. Dallas Goedert might be the only other one. But, again, he's a player who doesn't factor into their long-term plans. All these other players, many of which do. So they're cutting costs, and it might seem like they're splitting hairs a little bit, but this is all about cash relief, nothing about the personality or the person.
Well, right, but you say 27 as if he's 37.
And the cash relief's not coming –
But they also have, they have Sidney Brown, who's a 3rd-round pick, and they have Reed Blankenship, who they're going to extend. So I'm looking at it from their perspective, and those are players that they want to give opportunities to. They're going to have to go younger at a lot of areas, and I know that's going to make a lot of folks uncomfortable, but that's kind of the route that they're going. And they told you that this was going to be the plan. Not to this extent.
They told you to be patient, not to be bamboozled.
But Howie also said that we're going to do some things that might go against what many expect conventional wisdom to look like, and there it is. There's a hint. And we saw what happened yesterday.
Wouldn't last year have been the time to get to show what you believe in a guy like Sidney Brown? But he ended up not even being considered.
Yeah, McCollum was the next guy.
So when I hear about this, that there's some young guys they want to give an opportunity to. You had an opportunity last year to give to the guys.
So I understand what you're saying, but they gave a lot of young players opportunities last year. It wasn't in the cards for Sidney Brown. He was behind the 8 ball already. He spent all of training camp watching practice because he wasn't cleared, and that knee injury lingered into the season. So you're already behind on a new defense. Vic Fangio's defense places a a hefty responsibility on the shoulders of safeties and linebackers. And for Sidney Brown, everybody grasps systems at different rates, but McCollum is a very steady and consistent player. You know what you're going to get out there. You know he's going to make the tackles. You don't have to wonder which direction he's going to go, if he's going to blow an assignment or anything like that. And for Sidney Brown, you're learning that system on the fly. So I think a lot of context is needed when we're viewing Sidney Brown's season. I'm not suggesting that he's going to be this. You and I talked about this, Andrew. I'm not suggesting he's going to be an all-world player.
He drives me insane. He's Paul Reed on a football field for me. He drives me insane.
And what I will say is, for him to be a successful player in Vic Fangio's defense, he's going to have to lock in and make sure you're more diligent with your assignments and not reckless.
Not trying to grab a guy by his collar to try to throw him on a football that should have been a 15-yard penalty in a close playoff game.
He's going to have to play within structure and be a player that Vic can count on to carry out his assignments, or he's not going to see the field.
What did Nakobe Dean do last training camp?
He wasn't cleared until the final week of OTAs.
And somehow he managed to grasp it and be ready to go, and it was a Vic Fangio system that he was learning. So when I hear that about Sidney Brown,
he went through training camp.
No, he did exactly. Yeah, I mean,
and he had a rough 2 weeks. Let's not. The first 2 weeks of camp, it was very rough. It took him. It wasn't until the final 2 weeks we started to pull away from the Devin Whites of the world, and it became evident that he was their second best, or at that time, first best linebacker, their top linebacker.
All right, we have plenty of time to continue to discuss this. I know that I have an uphill battle that I'm climbing here. Right, I'm going up against Vic Fangio and Howie Roseman. I get it. God forbid you question anything that Howie does or Vic Fangio does in the city after winning the Super Bowl a month ago. We surpassed a month now. I get it. But I can question things, and this one, I don't get. You can give me all the financial cap relief and all this nonsense. Well, not nonsense. I get it.
It is nonsense for this year.
But I don't like this move, and I think the Eagles could be hurt by it. I already saw what the exit of Chauncey Gardner-Johnson did for this team. It is Kincade Salciunas. Andrew DeCo is with us for the rest of the show here on 97.5 The Fanatic.
Fanatic Sports Update.
A change at safety. I'm Connor Thomas, and the Birds made a shocking change at the safety position yesterday, trading away Chauncey Gardner-Johnson to Houston for guard Kenyan Green. The teams also swapped. The Eagles sent a sixth-rounder from the 2026 draft for a fifth-round pick in that same draft with Houston. Kenyan Green, a first-round pick in the 22 NFL draft, has been underwhelming in Houston. He's on the final year of his rookie deal, so we'll see what Howie has cooking there. John Clark of NBC joined the best show ever yesterday to react to the trade.
The GJ thing surprised me. Now, the only thing I can think is that they believe that there are some younger players, and that the level of play is not a tremendous difference, whereas the salary is.
Gardner-Johnson wasn't the only casualty yesterday for the Birds. The Eagles also lost running back depth as Kenny Gainwell will be signing with the Pittsburgh Steelers. So Howie Roseman has his work cut out for him. The Flyers fell to the Senators 5-2 last night. Sixers will take on the Raptors tonight at 7:30. You can hear that game live here on The Fanatic. Andrew DeCo remains with us through the remainder of the show. This update's brought to you by the New Jersey Division of Highway Traffic Safety. Did you know that driving under the influence of marijuana is illegal? Drive high, get a DUI. A message from the New Jersey Division of Highway Traffic Safety. I'm Connor Thomas for the home of the 76ers and Flyers, 97.5 The Fanatic and 97.5thefanatic.com.
95, The Fanatic reacting to the trade yesterday of Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, what this means for the Eagles moving forward. And yes, I understand that everybody's saying it is strictly financial. Now, Andrew the Checo reminded me of a tweet that I have yet to get to this morning because it came out last night, and quite frankly, I forgot about it. So thank you, Andrew.
Anytime.
So
That's transparency for you there, folks.
Connor, I'm curious because you're all about the vision, and I get it. You're not like, I don't think if somebody says trust Howie, trust Vic, I can't. What am I going to do? Don't?
No, you got to trust. But
Like, obviously.
hey, they showed you last year. They didn't trust Sidney Brown.
Right. Well,
So
yeah. So James Palmer covers the NFL. He does the underdog sports now, where Stephen A.
I didn't
Smith.
even know what the underdog sports is.
They're booming. Stephen A. Smith did his. He was interviewed by Underdog.
Is that what the one that I was listening to this morning?
Yeah. About the LeBron fiasco.
We may hear it later in headlines.
Oh, okay,
French,
good.
Which is French for the broad.
Ah.
If you didn't know.
James Palmer tweeted this out yesterday that the Chiefs, former Chiefs safety Justin Reed, signed with the Saints, and then he sent out a follow-up tweet. Reed had several teams that were very interested, and it came down to the wire between three: the Saints, who he signed with, the Titans, and the Eagles.
That means the Eagles lowballed.
But
Because nobody's choosing to go play in New Orleans.
right,
If
I don't know where New Orleans has money,
If
but
the
whatever.
Eagles didn't lowball them.
But that means the Eagles were in on a safety that I don't know how much money it ended up being, but they were in on a safety. And if the Chauncey Gardner-Johnson move was strictly financial and they want to try to find what they have with the young guys, why are they going down to the wire with Justin Reed?
Hey, there could have been moderate interest. We don't know to what degree, but
Okay.
they do need to add to that room. They're really young on experience. Sidney Brown, Tristan McCollum, Andre Sam, Lewis Seen.
3 years, $31 million, by the way, is what he got with New Orleans.
That's doable.
Well, is it? If it's financial and Chauncey,
Yeah.
No, the thing
if
is-
they can't afford Chauncey
Again.
Gardner-Johnson,
Let's put an end, again, take the it's about finances off the table for 2025. That is a flat-out lie. It's not true. It's a simple, it would one Google search can show you. It saved them half of the minimum contract of an NFL player. So
But-
it's not about, if you're telling about, well, I want to get rid of him, you could have had him for next year, Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, used him, and then gotten rid of him with minimal money on the back end. Howie's third-year dummy deals are legendary. I'm like, I mean, we got to deal with this at least logically.
Yeah, but logically is Cam Jurgens is eligible for an extension. They're going to prioritize their own guys. And when you're trying to set yourself up and not be one of those teams that you have that flash in the pan, you're not a viable team for a number of years. The Eagles are trying to do this thing the right way, and this is how they're doing it. It's not the way that anybody expects it to look, and it's going against conventional wisdom. But, and I hate to say trust Howie, but understand that he doesn't go into any offseason of the mindset of we'll be fine. He tries to knock it out of the park, and it's March 12th. They don't play a game until September.
right?
So
I just don't like the, hey, we're gonna try to find what we got in house with the youth. But hey, Justin Reed, are you interested? And I know you said it could be who knows how down to
Yes.
the wire, but if it's down to three teams, I imagine the Eagles didn't just call Justin Reed's agent and say, hey, we'd like to play with you, let us know, and hung up. I imagine there was terms that were discussed, how
Sure.
much money. So if it came down to the wire, that means they were looking at outside sources.
At their price, yeah.
And Justin Simmons is popping up again because he spoke out that he would love to play for the Eagles and Vic Fangio. Now, that's him saying he would love to play for him. That has nothing
Doesn't
to do
say
with...
what he's willing to play for.
Right, exactly, and how much and everything. It's just saying that he would love to play for them. Let's say they do end up getting him. Then again, it goes against the terminology that they use when the reporting was financial and they want to see what they have in-house because then they went outside.
But it would have to be on the Eagles' terms, and it's
Correct.
going to be at a reduced salary. That's what the case would be. I don't know that a lot of those players can be willing to accept that. The Eagles can be in on a lot of guys, but it's going to be at their price.
Right.
So, it's fine to explore other options, but the reality is that they're very young in that room. Sidney Brown, Tristan McCollum is probably their most experienced safety in that room because he's played the most over the last couple of years. But that kind of illustrates the point that I'm making that they need to add a experienced player, a veteran, and at a low cost.
Yeah, and the finances thing, we're operating logically. We may not be supposed to, operating logically. Think about how Chauncey Gardner-Johnson left the city last time. He went to Detroit on a super weird deal that his agent got for him. I don't believe he's with that agent anymore. But
No, he's not.
But this is a guy that, like, we don't know what he would have requested as far as an extension. Like, he could have gone well above the watermark, and I wouldn't think that'd be out of character for a guy that believes in himself the way Chauncey Gardner-Johnson does. Like, it may have been a substantial deal that he was looking for that the Eagles got out of those negotiations before they started.
Now, in fairness to Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, he's allowed to, right? Because he has played well. And and if I'm Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, his tweets the other day, when you and I were on the air last Thursday.
Live and in person.
Validity to all of it. Like, hey, you saw what happened the last time you guys got rid of me and you brought in who was supposed, and I know this was more a shot toward Darius Slay, but he wasn't wrong in what he said. The last time I left, you saw what happened. I saw a tweet earlier today. You're forgetting that they started 10-1. And then what happened? Lane Johnson said, was it Dan Patrick he did the show? Or
Dan
was
Patrick
it
show.
Dan Patrick?
It was Dan Patrick show.
That the 49ers
at the Super Bowl
stole their soul that day.
That was the quote.
Wow.
Chauncey Gardner-Johnson might not allow that to happen. They might have still lost, but the punking that took place before the game.
Everything that he said was 100% accurate in that regard, but you can't vocalize that. You talk about being a leader, and everything that I've been able to gather suggests that he has been behind the scenes, but you can't put that out there. And you're painting the waters are getting a little murky when you go that route, and that's not the way to go, especially as somebody who believes that they are a leader.
Okay. Now, Schefter, earlier we played it right before you came in. He believes there's more to come. Shedding.
Mm-hmm. Me too.
Who do you believe is the shedding? Dallas Goedert?
Dallas Goedert, yeah. And that's the obvious one, obviously. And if you start to really look at the roster, there's not a whole lot of other options.
Right.
And I think that they could very well come to that road where if there aren't any trade suitors, well, Dallas Goedert, thanks for your service. See you later.
So are they telling you that this is kind of like a retool year? They're still going to be really good.
Well, you can't say retool year with this, with the base talent this organization
so what's the
has.
terminology? I'm trying
a slight step back.
Slight step
but that
back.
doesn't mean you're
still good.
Look, the Chiefs
still competitive.
The Chiefs took a step back in 23,
but they were still right there.
They were 11-5 and won the Super Bowl.
Right.
They had the same record as the Eagles, and they ended up winning the Super Bowl. But it was a step back from a 14-3 or 15-2.
Right.
It was a 4-win step back, and they still won a Super Bowl.
Bowl. Yeah.
That's what they could say. A step back season doesn't mean step back in the playoffs.
Right. They're still in a conference. They're still a conference.
Right.
They're still in the conference championships.
Your record's going to be different. Did get an interesting tweet from a text, I should say, from somebody while we've been talking here that I asked for yesterday. Some information said, from what this person believes, pretty well connected. The Eagles weren't very pleased with the whole Swiftie nonsense with him and Travis Kelce's girlfriend and everything. They really didn't appreciate it. Not that that's why they got rid of him at all, but that this is the talk about the internal stressors. This guy's an internal stressor.
What, is Taylor Swift's future brother-in-law calling shots?
No. It's just that's an internal stressor where you're dealing with a man who doesn't conduct himself like an adult. And you're constantly having to deal. What's the next thing you're going to deal with? It's exhausting.
Okay.
And the same way,
I don't want him gone. I didn't want him gone.
The same way that he plays with that edge. That's why he sort of endeared himself to Philadelphia.
Yep.
That is true, too. All right, by the way, speaking of text messages, if you have any questions for Andrew, we have Andrew DeCo here until the end of the show, until 10 o'clock. So if you have any specific NFL Eagle-related questions for him, feel free to send them in, 610-632-0975. We obviously also want to hear from you on your reaction to the Chauncey Gardner-Johnson trade. Who plays next season for the Eagles on defense? All of a sudden, they have a lot of holes to fill. It's Kincade Salciunas, 97.5 The Fanatic.
97.5 The Fanatics.
Championship Wednesday here on Kincade Salciunas.
That's what I like to hear.
All right, we'll check our text line here momentarily. If you have any questions for Andrew DeCo, who's with us for the rest of the show, send them in at 610-632-0975. I'm not allowed to make the football guy comments anymore.
You are. No, you are.
I was yelled at.
No, there's an embargo.
I was yelled at.
No, you were not.
Wait, what I missed?
I think Connor's a little jealous that when we talk about football guys, we don't mention him.
And he
I'm
goes,
not jealous.
So I said, so he goes, the football guys thing with Andrew DeCo. And I said, okay. I said, you want me to lose all the betting jokes when it comes to Isaiah Rodgers? I said, I'll be glad to set that aside.
Oh, so that's
a negotiation.
I think there's some jealousy from Connor.
Yeah, so what do we do? Do we just have like a secret group message, you and I? It's just called
we'll have a handshake. Yeah.
FBG, football guys, and
Oh, jeez. Now we're really at it.
All right, so who the hell's playing for the Eagles on defense next year?
Keely Ringo, Sidney Brett. Nah, it's going to look a lot.
He's another one that they didn't trust last year.
I know.
Keely Ringo.
And we'll, you know what? We'll get to it now. So Keely Ringo is a player that he lost out in training camp to Isaiah Rodgers. Mm-hmm. And then, of course, Quinyon Mitchell leapfrogged both of them in the depth chart. But Keely Ringo, no one really acknowledged him. Nobody really talked about him last season from what I saw, even on social media. But I did. He was a really good gunner on special teams. But he didn't really factor into the defensive equation at all, nor did Eli Ricks, who was also another young corner who's going to be asked to, at least right now, take on a little bit more added responsibility. But I think that Keely Ringo, at being 22 years old, having that athleticism and that frame is appealing, but he hasn't done it in a game situation aside from some of those throwaway games in 2023.
Right. And so he's right now. I imagine they're going to bring in competition.
Of course, yeah.
Like it's
you gotta have something.
Yeah, it's not going to be like, here, Keely, here's the job. I feel like the Kilo.
What were you watching?
It's a
Scarface?
whole other connotation.
You watched the Scarface yesterday?
Seriously.
Well, there's a reason why I was almost out today. So a couple of years ago, they did give guys like the job. Like Nakobe Dean got the job 2 years ago without like any competition. Or like
he was anointed.
Yeah, and I didn't like that. And I hope. Now, again, that was a different defensive coordinator. That was Sean Desai. I imagine Vic Fangio would not allow that. Hell, he was very adamant about being honest about his opinion of Bryce Huff throughout training camp. But still, right now, if you're telling me that the number one ranked defense from last year is now going to have Keely Ringo and Sidney Brown as two members of your new starting secondary, and then you couple that with the loss of Josh Sweat, the loss of Milton Williams on those pass rush downs, a little concerning.
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, they have now made it a point where, and again, there's going to be so much that changes between now and the draft even, but they have a ton of holes, and they're going to have to find ways to prioritize positions. I imagine edge rusher, defensive tackle are going to be, focal points. But yeah, and the message that I would have to anybody who's sort of exasperated right now that the Eagles have come up empty largely over the past couple of days is just remember that it's March 12th. Remember that they got James Bradbury in the spring. They got Steve Nelson in the spring. They got LeGarrette Blount in the spring. The offseason continues on through training camp. There's going to be plenty of moves to come. They're not going to be content with winning that Super Bowl and not doing anything. It's just give it time. When Howie talked about patience, he was talking about, I believe if you're reading between the lines, it was, guys, you might not like some of this, but just trust me on this. I have something I have a vision of what I'm trying to do here.
And that's where the trust has to be assumed to a certain point. And the thing is, you can still question it, but not.
Yeah, it goes back to the blind faith discussion. Like, I do not have blind faith with anybody.
I don't either.
Shouldn't.
And anybody in life. Like, I'm not even talking about
with
football.
me.
Anybody in this room.
Like, I don't have blind faith. So I believe that they have a plan. They didn't just make the move to make a move.
Right.
Like, they weren't just like, hey, you know what? I'm tired of this CJ guy. Let's get Kenyan Green in here for a project. Like, let's try something out here.
And that's why I always think it's irresponsible. Like on the first day of free agency, you'll see posts
winners
that say,
and losers.
The biggest winner, Jeremiah Trotter Jr., Sidney Brown, Keely Ringo. Okay, well, let things play out. Allow things to play out because there's going to be a lot more pieces that are added, maybe even subtracted, that are going to factor into this equation. So that's why I always say on March 10th, here are players that are positioned to expand, to have expanded roles. Context is very important.
I'm sorry. I don't dig that they let the cat out of the bag that they're ready to move on from Dallas Goedert. So, I mean, everybody knows So that lowered the market value big time.
Yeah, you're going to release him if we don't get
I mean,
him.
it's like they're not going to end up getting anything for a guy that they're going to cut loose. And I have no problem with them cutting him loose.
Yeah, well, it's the elephant in the room. When you're a team that's shedding cap relief, and you see someone like Goddard there, you know what he's owed. You know that he's 30 years old, and the position that the Eagles are in, you kind of tip your hand a little
Frequently
bit.
injured.
Right, frequently injured, but impactful when he's been out there.
Yes.
Borderline devastated.
Andrew's going to be borderline devastated.
Well, guess what? That's today. Get ready to be devastated.
Wow, you
today.
think I was I was a little bit more than borderline with Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, if I'm being honest with you.
No, I
guys.
remember. I talked to you on the phone.
I
You
was
were freaked
miserable.
out.
All right, what do we got on the text line? What are the people saying? Either questions for Andrew or just reaction to obviously everything going on with the Eagles?
All right, we'll go with the question first. Kevin from Idaho checks in and says, does the last few days and the start of free agency indicate to you that the narrative players will want to come to Philadelphia because of the culture and them being Super Bowl champions? Does it prove it incorrect because a lot of players are out there just taking the money?
Well, I think players always
two days
money,
in.
right?
I mean,
Yeah.
2 days in, it's easy to say that, but I stand with what I said. I've been saying it now for a couple of weeks that Howie Roseman has established Philadelphia as being a premier destination, a place that veteran players, if you're chasing a ring, you're going to want to go to Philadelphia. And players that have left Philadelphia, they've wanted to stay in Philadelphia, so word of mouth matters. Especially when you start to trickle into April and May, and a lot of these guys are sitting out there.
Yeah,
let's go to Philadelphia and have a chance to win something. And reclamation projects like Kenyan Green now, like Mekhi Becton last year, that's an appealing destination. Howie Roseman and ownership are a big reason
And you
why.
mentioned word of mouth, and I'm going to say this as respectfully as possible. Are you listening more to Saquon Barkley or are you listening more to Isaiah Rodgers? You know what I mean? Like, if you're going to call somebody, hey, man.
You're doubling down on this one.
No, like. Oh,
No, I know.
damn it.
You started it with the football guy stuff to lead off.
Exactly.
But the Saquon Barkley, like, if you're going to call somebody, you're probably calling Saquon.
And say, what do you think?
Yes.
It's a great organization.
Superstar football player that I would like to play with.
Saquon, Jalen, AJ.
Yeah.
That's who you're talking to.
So
Maybe
all
not
the
Jalen.
text-
Jalen will just give you, like, keep the main thing the main thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if he's a good source of info.
Yeah, you're right. All right, give us one more text.
All right, we also have a check-in here that's asking for a favor from Andrew DeCo. No name, but they say, I was feeling confident, but now I'm really confused and worried that we might suck next year. Please ease those feelings.
You're not going to.
Well, I'll do everything I can to have you shed that thought, but they're going to be fine. Like I said, Howie Roseman does not go into any offseason trying to be just fine. In fact, he said once that his least favorite word is fine. So they're going to go in there and they're going to be competitive. They're going to find ways to be creative and add pieces that are going to help the 2025 Eagles. And we don't talk about this enough, but I have been really bullish on the Eagles player development. I think they do a remarkable job of getting a lot of young players ready. You go down the list last year, Kobe Dean was a player that there was a ton of questions about. Reed Blankenship developed and grew. Quinyon Mitchell, Cooper DeJean, Grant Calcaterra. They're going to be okay. They have the nucleus in place, and they have the coaching staff in place that are going to take that talent in there and refine their skill set.
All right. Coming up next, we'll check some more text messages. We reset the show. Also, the topics of conversation has been all surrounding Chauncey Gardner-Johnson. We did give you a little bit of information earlier today on Kenyan Green. Great job by Ruben Frank in his article on NBC Sports Philadelphia. We'll ask Andrew DeCo about Kenyan Green and, of course, Tyler Steen. Because we all said when Becton's gone, that means Steen's got the job. But is that necessarily the case? We'll dive a little bit deeper into that with Andrew DeCo coming up next. It's Kincade Salciunas here on 97.5 The Fanatic.
Fanatic Sports Update.
Birds make a big move. I'm Connor Thomas, and the Eagles made a shocking trade yesterday. Nobody saw this one coming. Chauncey Gardner-Johnson goes to the Houston Texans for guard Kenyan Green. The team's also traded a couple of picks in the back half of the 2026 draft. Kenyan Green, a former first-round pick in the 22 NFL draft, has been underwhelming in Houston, and he's on the final year of his rookie deal. So it seems to be somewhat of a salary move and also an attempt to build the depth of the offensive line. John Clark of NBC joined the best show ever yesterday to react to the trade.
The CJ-GJ thing surprised me. Now, the only thing I can think is that they believe that there are some younger players, and that the level of play is not a tremendous difference, whereas the salary is.
The Eagles also lost running back depth. Kenny Gainwell agreed to a contract with the Pittsburgh Steelers. So Howie Roseman has some work to do to rebuild this roster. The Flyers fell to the Senators 5-2 last night. Sixers will take on the Raptors tonight at 7:30. You can hear that game live here on The Fanatic. Andrew DeCo will remain with us for the remainder of the show. This update is brought to you by Moyer Indoor Outdoor Services. Follow Andrew Salciunas' lead and get a jump on a lush green lawn this spring right now. Go to eMoyer.com for free estimates. I'm Connor Thomas for the home of the 76ers and Flyers. 97.5 The Fanatic and 97.5thefanatic.com.
You can text it. You can call in questions or comments at 610-632-0975. Obviously, we are reacting to the Chauncey Gardner-Johnson trade that took place right after the show came to an end yesterday. The report is it was strictly financial. I understand why, but I'm not in favor of it.
I understand it going forward, but I'm
not in favor of it.
Not for this year.
And I don't know. You lost a key member of your defense. I mean, you have said
how
Andrew,
many have they lost? They lost 5.
A lot of them.
They lost 5.
But Andrew, you have even said on the show. I listened to you every word that you say.
Hey, thanks, man. I
That
appreciate
Chauncey
that.
Gardner-Johnson, even though he doesn't read the green, he doesn't wear the green dot, that he is a big part of that secondary.
Yeah.
Not just in terms of playmaking, but signaling to Reed Blankenship and speaking with Darius Slay. I mean, you have talked about that yourself on the show.
Yeah, he's a big-time communicator and a leader. He leads in his own way. He's just vocal on the field, and he does a lot of getting guys lined up, patrolling the secondary. But Reed Blankenship is the quintessential leader. Reed does it as well. They were doing it in tandem, so it's not like there's going to be a sudden drop-off. But to your point, Andrew, he does a lot of getting those younger players like Kenyan Mitchell and Cooper DeJean, getting them lined up and making sure they know what their assignments are. But they're going to be now in year 2. They know what's expected. Reed Blankenship's going to step up. And they're going to add competition there at safety to challenge Sidney Brown. So I don't think that all hope is lost, that they're going to kind of have a reconfigured safety room. And it's going to look a lot different than it does right now on March 12th.
Did you hear Andrew, our caller earlier? I mean, our DMer, saying that he thought it was a little too Caucasian. The secondary of the Eagles right now.
Yeah, I mean,
lost some of the dog in him. He says Reed Blankenship, and he's saying that Cooper DeJean and Reed Blankenship are not going to intimidate anyone.
Why is that? I mean,
their skill set.
I saw Cooper DeJean pick up Derrick Henry.
Reed
pile drive him into the ground.
That to me is one of my visuals of this year.
That's intimidating.
That I'm never going to forget.
Reed Blankenship is a big-time hitter. And let's say it is Keely Ringo and Kenyan Mitchell. Kenyan Mitchell is going to talk and let you know about it. And on the other side, another 6'2", 200-plus pound corner in Keely Ringo is awfully physical, so I don't buy that notion at all.
Good.
I'll ask you this, as you're listening to 97.5 The Fanatic, WPEN HD1 Burlington, Philadelphia, BZ Media Group Station, broadcasting live from the Comcast Business Studio, powering possibilities, as we are all trying to figure out why Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, why yesterday, even though the reporting being done is the financial reasons. Do you believe that any of this had to do with the day last week when you and I did the show with the tweeting and Slade doesn't seem to be coming back. By all reports, he's going to Pittsburgh, right? So it's not like they're moving on from Chauncey Gardner-Johnson to keep Darius Slay. They're both on their way out. But do you believe his actions at all could have led to this?
On that day alone, in a vacuum, no. I think it's a culmination of things that makes it a little bit easier because it is still solely about cash relief. But I think when you have all these other things that you have to be mindful of, especially a player who also potentially wants more money down the pike, those are things that make it a little bit easier to move off of a player, especially when you feel pretty strongly about Reed Blankenship and the view of your safety room with Sidney Brown and younger players. I think when you take all those things into consideration, yeah, it was one of many things, I'm sure, that contributed to it.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's fair. I mean, it's fair. Is that the NFL insider I spoke to says internal stressors.
There you go, stressors.
The Eagles do not appreciate that in their locker rooms. And also pointed out the whole thing with the whole Taylor Swift thing is a whole little side story. Mm-hmm. But the Eagles do have the largest female executive crew in the NFL, and it's not close in comparison. So it's an organization that's going to say, yeah, it's not really cool to you to be out there and, act like a misogynist jackass on social media while around the Super Bowl and everything. Mm-hmm. Just not the thing they want to be dealing with.
And look, since 2021, Saints, Eagles, Lions, Eagles. He's got 2 years left on his deal. He's going to the Texans.
And that could be a one-year stop.
That could be a one-year stop.
Because, the contract is dummy. I don't think the Texans are going to line up to give him more money.
I mean, he's a journeyman. He's a young journeyman. That's what
but
he
it's
is.
A talented journeyman.
He's talented. He's absolutely talented, yes.
What you just said, though, is a term you really never hear. A young journeyman.
Right.
He's 27. He's a young journeyman.
But it's because of the fact that he can't stay anywhere.
You're 100% right, John.
Too much.
And then on the other side of things, to look at it in its entirety, he's a player that everywhere he goes, he makes an impact.
He does.
He
Yes,
brings the
he
attitude,
does.
he brings the toughness, the tenacity, and that tends to radiate throughout the entire defense. I don't think it's by coincidence that everywhere he goes, that defense sees a boost. Now, sometimes a player like that can overstay their welcome, and it can put a lot of stress on
Which
players.
is 1 year.
But they're ultimately going to be better as a result. So you can see both sides of things, and I totally understand why a lot of the fan base is upset with the trade.
All right, Kenyan Green is a part of the trade. Comes here. Part of me almost feels bad for Kenyan Green because nobody's talking about him. It's just the departure.
We'll talk about him.
It's just the departure of Chauncey Gardner-Johnson. Is this a battle for Steen? Is this just, hey, let's see what we got? And Kenyan Green, much like the Mekhi Becton, let's see what we got. He ends up being the starter. It's just interesting that Kenyan Green's basically got 2 years left because he's got the club option next year, and Tyler Steen's got 2 years left. So Tyler Steen's probably thinking, oh, all right, no more Becton, it's my job. And then they go, hold on a second, sir. Kenyan Green's here now. What do you make of that situation at guard?
It's funny because you gave me a free agent to name who I thought would be signing on Thursday. The
And
next time we
minutes
spoke,
later,
it was Will Fries.
Yeah.
But we talked about the interior offensive line lacking depth, experience depth. Kenyan Green provides that. He also gives you a player that, he might be able to push Tyler Steen. The Eagles like Kenyan Green going into the draft. He was brought in for a 30 visit. They talked to him at the Combine, but he didn't live up to expectations. But the Eagles are getting a 23-year-old, soon-to-be 24-year-old player who started 23 games in the NFL, and he was a first-round pick. So I think that when you take all those traits and characteristics, Jeff Stoutland's going to be able to mold. They're assuming that he's going to be able to mold that player and make him some semblance of the player that many envisioned him to be when he was selected in the first round.
I'm going to panic if Tyler Steen can't beat him out.
But here's the thing.
Like last year.
I believe that Tyler Steen will beat him out.
Okay.
I'm a little bit more optimistic on Tyler Steen's output or outlook than I think a lot of people are. But I've seen him do some good things when he was pressed into service, John, to the extent where I didn't think that there was that much of a drop-off between Steen and Becton, if we're being totally honest.
Okay.
Well, we want total honesty out of you, or get the hell out.
I think Tyler's did a really nice job last year, and he might surprise some folks. I think it wasn't a coincidence that he was the front runner to be the right guard last year. It was just so much that Mekhi Becton leapfrogged him, and that athleticism and size was too much to pass over.
So I just want to run this by. I put out the tweet of Schefter when he was on the air with us saying that he's expecting the Eagles to shed even more salary. Goddard's the first name that obviously comes to mind. A lot of people are asking on social media, and I wonder if we have any on the text line as well, so I'm sorry if people have texted in. Is there still a possibility that Huff's on the move, where they find a way to entice the team? I saw somebody say, give them all the fifth-round picks and Bryce Huff, and then they take the contract. Is there any way to make it work where Huff is on the way out and it doesn't totally kill the Eagles? Because I know the dead cap hit's pretty bad.
Yeah, aside from the dead cap hit being exorbitant, it's tough. Can they really afford to subtract from a position that they only have two players that you can really count on next season?
Right.
And the Eagles believe that the story has yet to be written on Bryce Huff. I think 1 year might be a little bit too premature, given what they paid him to kind of close the book on his future as an Eagle. I think they're going to give him every opportunity to return in the spring and see if he's able to grasp Vic Fangio's system, work on some of those shortcomings, and maybe be a functional piece, a situational piece even, in that defense. I think it's way too early to write him off. I think Bryce he might not be the player that we all expected him when he signed. We all had questions, but we thought that he would help him a lot more. But I do think that he's going to contribute to the Eagles in 2025.
Do you have an idea of why Bryce Huff never clicked? Why it never worked? I know you talked to a lot of people.
Yeah. I talked to Bryce quite a bit last year, and he took everything in stride. But the defense, John, was a drastic departure from what he was asked to do with the Jets. So much so that it just seemed like he was out of place, and it took him a while he looked sort of like he was finding his way during the regular season. And in training camp, he was very quiet. Later in camp, when he started to get his legs under him and playing a lot faster and knowing what his assignments were, he looked a lot better. But I think for him, it didn't seem like he was playing with a lot of confidence. He was deficient in run defense, and if you have one area that teams are going to look to exploit, Vic Fangio is not going to utilize you. And it was so much so that J-Lux Hunt leapfrogged him because he was doing some things, little things behind the scenes that were, whether it's becoming a little bit more sure in run defense. I thought he was a little bit more developed and refined as a pass rusher. So that's why he got leapfrogged. But again, a full offseason now, I think it's too early. I agree with the Eagles. I think it's too early to close the book on Bryce Huff.
It just shocks me that they targeted him because of his skill set as a complete departure from the guy you knew was your defensive coordinator, Vic Fangio. Mm-hmm. Why'd you target him?
I think they saw. I think they probably saw a player who they believed to be on the ascent, and who knows, he could be, but they saw that as the top pass rusher on the market. And the Eagles weren't the only team that were in on Bryce Huff. There were a number of other teams that also were of that same belief. So we'll have to wait and see how it goes. But when you're the top pass rusher, and that's a premium position in free agency, I mean, it's kind of hard to fault the Eagles, who prioritize that position, for going after him.
Now, I've had like 4 people tweet at me.
Okay.
Another dark horse candidate. I don't think so, because they have it. I'm looking at the spot track. They actually have an out after this season. But a lot of people are wondering if Jake Elliott could be a cap casualty.
Can I dream?
Well, I know you would be in favor of it.
I would absolutely be in favor.
But we don't know how much they'd save.
Sentimentality doesn't play for me.
I don't know how much they'd save, though. Like, I don't have that information.
And also, beyond that,
you could get a better kicker in the draft.
Can you?
Or free agency.
Well,
Yes.
I disagree.
You could get
I disagree.
when you have the worst kicker in the NFL at 50
how do you quantify that? You're the worst kicker in the NFL.
He was the worst 50 plus.
But he was fine in the when it mattered in the postseason. He was fine.
But all year matters. What you're doing is you're looking at the entire body of work, which are a bunch of tests all year long, and you're saying, "Well, he aced the final." Yeah,
right.
But what about
he finished.
What about all the failing grades that he had along the way that potentially cost the team?
But he was just a year removed from being an All-Pro.
I understand, but it was struggle. He was a giant.
Maybe he was working through something.
Guys' legs don't usually get stronger.
Maybe he was kicking through something. That's all I'm saying. Like maybe there's more to it than anyone really realizes. Like you don't just there's not that drastic fall off like that when you're an All-Pro the previous season. And in money situations, Jake Elliott came through. So I don't know that you can move off of a kicker and say, well, we'll find an Alex Henry in the draft.
Okay.
Caleb Sturgis.
Caleb Sturgis.
What other great kickers do we
Todd
have
France.
that we walked?
Todd France. He used to kick for the foot off your soul.
But don't make it out like, though, the Eagles, they stumbled onto him by luck.
Oh, yeah, they did.
Well,
It's
they
not
added
like
him off.
because Sturgis got hurt.
Cincinnati. Yeah, exactly.
They found him because of a total accident, and it worked out for them.
Yeah,
it's not like they went, man, we see something in this kid we got to have.
Nah, come on, we got our man from Temple.
Yeah, we do.
That guy bombed 60 yards.
Brandon
McManus? No. Trudillo or whatever.
The Trujillo.
Yeah.
Trujillo.
Maddox Trujillo.
He's the kicker.
Metallica has a bassist named Robert Trujillo.
And he's bombed 60-yarders in the link.
Oh, okay.
64.
So is Jake Elliott.
64 yards.
Yeah, but how's he going to do in the playoffs when he has to make a 48-yarder?
Hey, he did it. He combined. He did it at the combine. A lot of eyes
He's one
on
of the
him.
best kicker at the combine.
Whoa.
All right, coming up
Hold the
next,
phones.
another former Eagle signing elsewhere, and this allows us to revisit a discussion that John has on his wish list. Backup running back. We get into that next. It's Kincade Salciunas, 97.5 The Fanatic. We want to hear from you. So During the commercial breaks.
This
Well,
is a
I'll
good
t-
topic.
I'll tell you. Connor.
Don't ask Connor because he can't smell himself.
No, but he wears deodorant.
Does he?
I think.
I don't know. He can't smell
yeah.
himself.
I mean, yeah.
Yes, you wear deodorant. I figured that you did.
Have you smelled that Phillies jersey during the year?
Well, that's different.
That shirt?
So when you buy deodorant, now it is hard to ask you because you don't have the sense of smell, in case people don't know. Do you buy the same stick, like the same brand every single time?
No.
See, I'm a Fiji guy. Old Spice Fiji, that's it.
By the way,
you gotta switch it up.
The three of us are all Old Spicemen.
I'm a loyalist.
Yeah,
I'm a
use,
loyalist.
I use Bear Glove.
But you got to do the antiperspirant and deodorant.
I use the gel.
See, I can't do the antiperspirant because I got the allergen.
No, but they have zinc, the ones that are aluminum free.
Have I ever smelled bad to you?
No, you don't
Exactly.
smell bad. You don't.
Andrew rotates. He'll buy a different kind every single time.
Yeah.
Well, no, I like that.
I'm a big rotation, just like I rotate my cologne.
I'm a Fiji guy. I'm a loyalist.
Whatever catches my eye, I'll
So,
walk in there.
You're like
Then-
John Travolta in Saturday Night Live with the cologne. I mean, Saturday Night Fever.
So then it goes to, what's the life expectancy of a stick of deodorant?
And I said...
You said 5 weeks.
I said 4 to 5 weeks. Yeah, 5 weeks.
The Checo says 2. Like, dude, what do you grind that thing to your bones?
Bill Colarulo.
Well, after it gets low, I'm like, you know what? I'm going to get rid of this one. It's time for something else. I'm bored with this.
Bill says 7 swipes.
I'm a 5 swiper.
Now,
I tested it with my phone.
Now, wait a minute. Andrew just
1,
brought
2,
back...
3, 4, 5.
Andrew
I always
just
do
brought
5. It's
back-
my lucky number.
You just brought back one of our topics from after the show when we do
Post-show
our
headlines.
post-show headlines on YouTube. You say you throw it away when it gets to a certain level.
Yeah, I'm like, it's too risky.
I'm getting a plastic cut
Yeah, me too.
because I'm using it till the last little bit.
But here's the thing, John, you do with the toothpaste.
With toothpaste. My
I
wife,
will struggle to get that very last bit out.
and I do not.
No,
If it's-
I don't do that either.
once
I don't
it's
want to
flat-
struggle.
Once it's flat, it's done.
Oh, you guys must have great income.
I don't want to struggle,
There you
man.
go.
Then maybe I'll go to Wolfthorn or whatever the next scent is.
Listen, I'm a radio man. I go to the very end of something.
Yeah, it's about finishing what you started.
Yeah.
I've never left a meal on the table, a beer on the
Exactly. You
table,
don't
a
do
deodorant
that.
Yeah,
stick
but
on the
I
counter.
get bored. I get dissatisfied. I'm like, at Bear Glove, we've had a
Or
good
of
run.
a deodorant
We-
stick.
we've- look, I have an attachment to it. At Bear Glove, we've had a good run. We're going to move on to the next thing. Captain.
You're Howie Roseman.
Exactly. It's a smart move.
So-
Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, time for a new scent.
What do you believe is the life expectancy of a deodorant stick, Connor?
I'd probably say like a month and a half.
It's 2 to 3 months is the average.
I thought you were going to say 2 to 3 weeks. I'm like, I'm spot on.
Yeah.
And
I'd probably go like
Too
2
much
months.
testosterone. I don't know.
I DO up probably 3 times a day, and I'm still lasting.
Whoa,
that
whoa, whoa,
feels
whoa,
like
whoa,
a
whoa,
lot.
whoa, 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 wait a minute.
Morning,
You keep okay
morning when I wake up. Sometimes when I get home.
after a shower, right?
Yeah,
always,
absolutely.
You shouldn't be putting it on after you sweat.
No, it's workout, shower, and then you put
Okay,
more
so you take
deodorant
3
on.
showers.
Sometimes, yeah.
Okay, but that's fine. You never put
I
it
worked
on.
out this morning already.
Okay, but you don't put it on after I'm smelling myself. Let me
No,
give it-
no,
Okay.
no, because
All right, good.
no, you're not supposed to. However, I have done this. If I do feel like there's a little stench, having a kid around's nice. Do the baby wipe, dry it off, Dio,
There we go.
bang.
All right, stink boys. I think
You-
we've
you-
established we're all weirdos.
You're not colognesman, right?
No, I'm not a colognesman. Listen, this is the conversation that people need to hear.
This is when
This is
when we're on break. This is what we're
That's it, in
talking
case
about.
People wonder what we talk about. It's not about sports. It's not about Kenneth Gainwell transition, who signed with the Pittsburgh Steelers yesterday to a 1-year deal. Now, I want to get your belief as to why, because John was a little upset this morning that he signed a 1-year deal with the Steelers. We don't know the money yet, but I have a theory as to why. And I think I opened John's mind up, but I'll let you speak on it. Why do you think Kenny Gainwell goes to the Steelers for a 1-year deal?
I even
Not
said
here.
this as I was leaving here yesterday. I said, watch Kenny Gainwell sign with Pittsburgh for a minimal deal because they lost Najee Harris, because this 1 year gives him an opportunity to really showcase what he's able to do in an expanded role. And I've said this to you guys many times. I think that he's the most underrated player on the Eagles offense because he did a lot of things well. He was their 2 and 4 minute back, good pass protector, decent in short yardage despite not being a big running back. But the Eagles are going to be okay because they got Will Shipley to be their number 2 running back. And I talked to Will every single week last year. We did our Rookie Diary series, and the way that he approached his weeks were that he prepared as if he was a starter. He has a little bit of juice to his game, and he just takes football. So he's so locked in and he doesn't take any opportunity for granted.
John, you hear that?
I hear it. I hear it.
Raise the sails.
I'm happy for him, though. I'm really happy that he's getting the opportunity. I am telling you right now, and oh gosh, I'm going to say it right now. I'm going to be right on this. There's going to be a time next year where they really need somebody to step up. Now, I know you're on the ship.
We'll do
You're
a
totally
cheesesteak
on the
at an undisclosed location.
There we will.
Now, I got to ask this question. If I say something and then Andrew DeCo says it, what does that do for my status?
Well, he's a football guy. So you would just be parroting.
But I said it before, Andrew.
Now, I'm telling you right
Unknowingly,
now.
and I didn't even know that he said
I'm telling you right now.
I said to you that he probably went to Pittsburgh.
No, you did do that. No. I'm sorry about that.
Saying.
Yes, that's what he said. That's what the man said. That's what he said. He said that.
All right, coming up next, we have today's headlines with Connor Thomas. We haven't gotten to that yet, so we do that coming up next. Also, could we expect to see another dog with the Eagles? Draft
Or free agency.
or free agency? We'll also get into that next. It's Kincade Salciunas, 97.5 The Fanatic.
Fanatic Sports Update.
A shocker of a trade. I'm Connor Thomas, and the Birds made a shocking move yesterday, sending Chauncey Gardner-Johnson and a late-round pick in the 2026 draft to the Houston Texans for guard Kenyan Green and a 2026 fifth-rounder. Kenyan Green, a former first-round pick in the 22 NFL draft, has had a rough start to his NFL career, looking for a reclamation project in Philly, the likes of which we saw with Mekhi Becton, so we'll see if he can work that out. John Clark of NBC joined the best show ever yesterday to give his thoughts on the trade.
The GJ thing surprised me. Now, the only thing I can think is that they believe that there are some younger players, that the level of play is not a tremendous difference, whereas the salary is.
The Eagles also lost running back depth with backup Kenny Gainwell heading to the Steelers on a new deal, so Howie Roseman has some work to fill out the roster. Flyers fell to the Senators 5-2 last night. Sixers play the Raptors tonight at 7:30. You can hear that game live here on The Fanatic. Andrew DeCo remains with us for the remainder of the show. This update's brought to you by Mercedes-Benz. That feeling of owning your first Mercedes-Benz is hard to believe, but it's real. From the leather stitching to the iconic design, every element of Mercedes lives up to its reputation. See for yourself at your local dealer. I'm Connor Thomas for the home of the 76ers and Flyers, 97.5 The Fanatic and 97.5thefanatic.com.
Johnny journalist, have some insight on potentially more dogs.
I've gotten 4 texts in the last half hour from the pro day at the University of Georgia.
Can't wait to hear it.
And it's so funny how the Eagles just know, and everyone's making jokes about the Eagles owning Athens.
Well,
Like, so, by the
pretty
way,
much do.
by the way, the Falcons sent a contingent of 10. I even got their list that they said 10 people, and reportedly their owner, Arthur Blank, might even make an appearance.
wow, that's a first,
Like,
right?
Jeffrey Lurie doesn't need to do that.
But don't they not draft Georgia?
They don't. They do
Yeah,
not draft
so-
Georgia players.
Your owner does not need to be at a pro day.
Well, he does because it's a freaking photo shoot for him.
Oh, yeah, that's true. So we'll get to your insight come up in a few minutes, but I don't want to make the Lundys wait anymore, and I don't want to make Connor Thomas wait anymore. It's time now for today's headlines with Connor Thomas.
Today's headlines with Connor Thomas.
What do we got?
We got a lot of good stuff today, but this one is not a great story if you're a fan of golf or a fan of Tiger Woods. I'm not sure if you guys saw this, but he was once again trying to work back into playing shape. Tiger announced yesterday he has a ruptured Achilles that he underwent surgery for. So, boys, the question is it about that time for Tiger Woods to hang it up for good?
It has been. And, like, I love that he's doing the thing. I don't watch it, but I've seen the highlights. He's doing the simulation golf. It's cool. Look, he is a legend in the sport of golf. I'm not a big enough golfer to appreciate the way you do, John, the way you do, Connor. And more so you, John, because you also saw the rise of Tiger Woods.
He's the reason that I honestly, I chose between 2 houses in Georgia. I picked a golf neighborhood because of Tiger Woods.
Right.
Tiger Woods made me want to play golf, and I love it. I thank him, Tiger. But yes, it's time.
It's
Tom.
time. It's been that time. But,
Yeah.
you know.
I'm so sad for him though because
It
I
stinks
love
to see a
Tiger.
legend like that go out like that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it also sucks just considering the game of golf's fun. I just went on the golf trip. Part of the reason I play is for that. Shout out to guys that I went with. By the way, I promised the shout out to the 2 teams that won. So Sean, Jimmy, Dave, and Scott, great players down
All right,
there.
good job.
Next thing we got is LeBron, who he did not appreciate his shout out from Stephen A. Smith. And now Stephen A. is doubling down again. This is on Gilbert Arenas' podcast. Stephen A. said further about the LeBron James, Bronny James situation.
You said you f***ing with my son. No, I wasn't. I was talking about you. I was talking about you, wasn't about your son. I know he got work to do. And by the way, I'm rooting for him. I ain't rooting against nobody. But I was talking about your ass. You did this. You the one that had us as reporters, as a league, as an NBA franchise. All of us got to sit back and be quiet and capitulate to your You did that.
Yeah, I mean, look.
Why is he yelling?
Well, no, because
it's Stephen A.
it's Stephen A. But it's the truth.
Yeah, it's not wrong. I mean,
LeBron pushed his son, did a jobs program for a kid who was not NBA quality, and then gets pissed because people are criticizing his son.
No, Stephen A. is right, and I never say that, but in this case, he totally is right. And to make it so that your son's absolved of any sort of
Leave my son's
criticism,
name out of your mouth.
like
BS.
like he's special from anybody else. Stephen A. was doing his job,
and he wasn't lying. I've heard Stephen A. Smith talk about Bronny. Forget the LeBron aspect of it. Talk about Bronny and how he has work to do. And he talks about it from a basketball standpoint. When he talks about LeBron and Bronny, it's, hey, you literally said, even though LeBron said publicly, I don't care where he gets drafted, it then became like the night of the draft, hey, you better draft my son or don't draft my son. He's only going to the Lakers.
a literal helicopter parent.
He is a helicopter parent. And more importantly, you can't. If you push your kid on the NBA and he can't perform, then you're going to take criticism for doing it, and the kid's going to take criticism for not being a player.
Yeah, I get LeBron feeling some type of way about the way people are talking about his son, but the reason you're in this situation is what happened to lead to that, and you're a big part of that. You got to live with it.
He brought it upon himself.
Exactly.
Nobody was saying that Bronny was a superstar. LeBron was. Nobody was saying that Bronny was better than half the league already. LeBron did.
Yeah, the reason why this kid's being scrutinized is
And by the
because
way,
LeBron, he did that to
And
him.
LeBron lied.
And he
then-
lied.
Flat out.
And then the first game thing where they bring Bronny on the court, it was a really cool moment, but then you realize, well, he doesn't play anymore. So they really did that for the photo op and for the history, but not for the actual team.
How's that book coming along?
Right, exactly.
All right, we'll round out with this replay of what
The
we
first
talked
page
about
of it?
earlier.
We're reacting to the trade of Chauncey Gardner-Johnson. Your feelings toward it? What are the Eagles doing? Answer that question for us today.
And again, I was surprised by the trade, 100%. And I did not expect this. I don't love Chauncey Gardner-Johnson not being on the team anymore. He wasn't a player that I was get rid of him. But we're making a lot of assumptions about what this trade leads to for the team, for it being March 12th and not knowing who's going to start where, who's going to be acquired where. It's hard to do this job in Sports Talk Radio by saying, well, let's not react to this now because
that's what
you
we're
don't know what's going to change.
We got
yeah,
to,
so we have to. But there is part of the fan base that needs to exercise patience, being that you have arguably the best defensive coordinator in football and unarguably the best GM in football. By the way, headlines brought to you by Lundy Law. For over 70 years, Lundy Law has been fighting for injured people. If you need them, remember the name Lundy Law, your injury lawyers. Visit LundyLaw.com. That's LundyLaw.com.
Here's a fun show. 6 o'clock hits. You're listening to Kincade and Salciunas. Hey guys, Andrew Salciunas here with John Kincade. Let's wait and see what happens.
We're not gonna react. We're not going to react. We're not going to have an opinion today on it because we have to wait.
Talk to you tomorrow.
Let's talk more
I got nothing for you.
Yeah, see you guys. Mike Missanelli show next.
But part of us does have to acknowledge that our careers force us to view things in the moment, and maybe we should have a longer-term view.
And that's why I
that's
keep
why we
on
discuss
saying,
it that
whatever
way.
Howie and Vic Fangio decide to do, I will have faith in them, but prove me wrong. Because right now, I am not happy with this decision. I will not be happy going into a season if it is indeed. We don't know. But if it is indeed Keely Ringo and Sidney Brown, I'm going to have to see it play out. But I can tell you that I'm not excited for the prospect of it.
I need you to lay out for Andrew DeCo what you talked about in the first hour of the show about
That's 3 hours
opening
ago. What did I
day.
say? Oh, yeah.
Opening night for the Philadelphia Eagles, banner unveiled, and then you're going to do when you're going to do what when the game starts?
Kickoff's going to go. I'm going to go, all right, prove me wrong.
Cross his arms
and
in defiance.
I'm going to sit back. Prove me wrong.
That doesn't sound like you.
I hated this trade. I hated it. So if
I think that 4 months from now, or even 5 months from now, you're going to think a lot differently when they're in the thick of the preseason. The regular season's right around the corner. I think right now I understand that you feel some type of way.
I do.
So does a lot of the fan base, and rightfully so. But I think you're going to have a different thought process months from now.
Here's what I'll say. I hope the offense starts first. So that way I'm not doing arms folded.
No, I hope the offense makes it that.
Actually, wait, you know what? I'll do the same thing about Kevin Patullo.
Remember,
prove me wrong.
Oh, man.
The Chiefs won 2 Super Bowls in a row. They won one with the defense that was ranked 15th.
Yeah.
And then they did one with a defense that was ranked like 2nd.
So we're just doing the reverse.
Year to year. We're doing it in the reverse. This year, the offense should put up the numbers that I thought Kellen Moore was going to have them
Kevin
doing.
Patullo's Andy Reid.
You never know.
He might. You never know.
Guess what? He might do a better job than Kellen Moore did because I tell you, I was Kellened up. I take the L. They won a Super Bowl, and I still take the L because I thought we were going to see a dynamic, ultra-creative, wild offense. I thought it was bland tapioca pudding.
Great running game, though. All right, tell us about your insight here with the Dogs.
Okay, so yesterday I was talking to someone very close to the Georgia football program, like really close, and they're having their big pro day today.
Did you ever spend time in Atlanta?
Yeah, I did quite a few times.
How is it?
A good place. And I can tell you this, is that this person expects that there will be another Georgia Dog joining the Birds maybe this week, as I read directly, maybe this week, and another one by the summer. I'm trying to figure out, so obviously the draft is one today.
Malachi Starks would be the name there to keep an eye on, the safety.
And if you, by the way, I was just doing this little calculus because I'm a nerd. 5th round draft pick on the Sumer Sports thing. So if the Eagles are sitting at 32, and Sparks is a guy that they're really interested in, they want to move to 29. You could do that usually with a 5th round draft pick. Move up like 2 or 3 spots,
and they have like 100 of them.
Right, so they can move up. So they could move up.
They
They do have the ability to move up without sacrificing the 2nd round pick or the 3rd round pick.
Right.
So that could be it. But I asked Andrew DeCo a little homework assignment yesterday because I'm like, okay, that stuck in my head. Who's the dog you think it could be?
Well, given that Eric Stokes signed last night, the corner,
Which we both thought it might be Stokes.
Azeez Ojulari would be. He's still out there, and he went to Georgia, and he's 24 years old.
I wouldn't have a problem with that at all. Wouldn't have a problem with it at all because the money's not going to be huge.
It shouldn't be. The longer
No.
you wait in free agency, you're hitting that. You're getting into that second wave.
I mean,
Also-
Schefter says it's over.
Also,
Yeah, and Adam Schefter said it was over.
yeah, it was. Yeah. Also, a position of need.
Yeah, position
They
of
need-
need.
There you go. I'm telling you, it might be. We'll find out. Will there be another dog this week?
If they bring him in, what does that mean for Huff?
Well, then I guess that video they're going to say this didn't age well.
Yeah.
Well, what I'm going to tell you is that everybody, the Eagles are all over Georgia Pro Day, which is good. They should be.
Love that.
One of the largest contingents.
Love that. All right, we got another segment left to play. We'll check the text line. We have the key three coming up at 9:48 to be specific. It is Kincade Salciunas, 97.5 The Fanatic.
Mike
Check our text line here momentarily. Key 3 coming up as well. We're joined by Andrew DeCo for the rest of the show. But Connor, I was surprised that you missed something in headlines today.
Well, I only get 2 stories.
Well, it was sports related, baseball related, fashion related, and we all know that you are a fashionista.
Big fashion guy.
Did you guys see what Major League Baseball did with the hats recently?
I did not.
No.
Tell us.
They're awful.
Well, so they started doing like these logos where like it would say Phillies across, but then the P they would put in the middle. They're hideous.
They're
That
hideous.
doesn't sound good.
It's
No,
another
they're
like,
hideous.
hey, let's try to do something for some suckers to buy, right? And so one of them was Texas, the Rangers. So they had Texas going across. And then they had the giant T in the middle. So the X was blocked out. So it's spelled, at least it looked, Tetas.
Uh-oh.
It did.
Which translates
In Spanish
in
to...
Spanish to another word for, we'll use the scientific term, nipple, but a different term for it.
Yes.
That was the translation.
Yes.
And they somehow, nobody picked that up. As soon as it came out, people that spoke the Spanish language just started having a field day with it. They had to pull it off the market, which
Boo.
I don't know why. Like,
Well, no, you have to take that off.
Yeah, that's awfully egregious on their part.
it's on a, I'm sure it's on a secondary. I'm
First
sure
of all,
people
how do you
already
know?
bought.
Oh, no. First of all, how do you not know that?
Well, so like, yeah,
I've never
Somebody-
studied Spanish.
But they're,
I'm impressed.
They're horrible. And then
They're ugly. The things are ugly. Or the what did Ricky Bo trot out the other day? I saw a picture of Ricky
the
Bo with
Eagles
this,
slash
the
Philly.
Eagles Philly stuff. I hate that.
I don't like the combo
I hate
either.
it. Like, first of all, they have nothing to do with each other.
I don't like the combo either. I
can't stand
it.
it. Well,
Looks,
they're different
it looks
sports.
nice, but I don't like it.
No, it's a nice looking hat. But I'm like, what is that on his head?
Now, that one was the most vulgar one. People are stretching a little bit the Angels.
Why?
Oh, you can put that one together.
Uh-huh.
Oh.
The Astros, the H is in the middle, so it's Ashos. So a lot of people are
well,
having
they
fun
are,
with
though. They stole a World Series.
the play on words. But the most vulgar one, was, was the Texas Rangers one. How does nobody know? Like,
Oh, come on, wake
who
up.
signs off on that?
they had a meeting, right? Like, think about it. There were multiple people putting their brains together and said, first off, we think this looks good, which they don't.
Which it doesn't.
They look horrible.
Terrible.
Second of all, nobody realized
That's terrible.
how quickly things could translate.
And
Dumb
plus-
people do dumb stuff all the time, baby.
Do they not realize that we are all teenage boys? No matter what age
Right,
we
exactly.
are. We're all teenage boys, and people are going to just scoop up something that's childish and dumb.
God, it's amazing. All right, give us a text message if we have any questions or comments for Andrew DeCo, or just comments on the happenings. What's going on there, Connor?
Speaking of childish and trying to make jokes out of everything, we've got a great one here. Now, a lot of people have made this joke, but this is the first text we saw. Chris from Boston says, can an APB be put out for the guy who nailed Howie with the beer can? That guy needs to be arrested. Howie's clearly not right in the head.
Concussion
and did
protocol,
not
right?
pass concussion protocol.
There it is.
I still can't believe
Somebody did that.
somebody did that.
What a jerk. Like, you're a jerk.
Yeah.
Like, I get it if somebody holds their hand up and you make a bad throw.
By the way,
they're not athletes.
He had not. 'cause you see the
Nobody
video
on
before.
that bus
Nobody.
was asking for a beer.
They're awfully vulnerable. They're sitting there. Everybody's been standing out there for 4 hours.
Yeah.
And they're lofting beer cans up there. Yeah,
But you're
like
right.
throwing a
that's a
rock.
tough place to be.
Maybe he made the move. Maybe his brain
No, I
got a
can
little
see
injury.
it. No, you can see that.
He bleeds for the city, though, which was a great line. What else we got?
All right, non-beer can related, we have a check-in here from Todd in Virginia who says losing Chauncey Gardner-Johnson was a key mistake after Super Bowl 57 and how he just repeated that move. Additionally, the return on the trade was very low. It's concerning.
How much does that concern you, Andrew? Because a lot of people that are saying, hey, don't worry about it. Jalen Carter, year 3, he's obviously got spunk to him, right?
Oh yeah.
Oh, he's got some spunk. All right.
But there clearly was a loss when Chauncey Gardner-Johnson left the team. And they did still have the veteran leadership, right, with Fletcher Cox and company. So does that concern you at all that the mentality on the field and in the locker room is lost? I don't know how much that may or may not bother you?
I don't think so. When you have a leader like a Nakobe Dean, when you have someone like Zach Bond, who got his first taste of winning and really success at the NFL level, there's not going to be complacency there. They have the leadership and the infrastructure in place, and really, it all starts with Nick Sirianni. I think Nick Sirianni's learned and grown a lot as a coach over the years, so he's going to make sure that energy's still there and make sure that there's no loss of focus and they're not allowing distractions to creep in. It is a big loss. I'm not going to minimize what he brought to the Philadelphia Eagles, but they have players there that I think are ready. Quinyon Mitchell plays with a lot of attitude and toughness for that position. I think Reed Blankenship is going to step up and be a leader on that side of the ball as well. And they still have Lane Johnson and Landon Dickerson. Lord Jordan Mailata is a tremendous leader as well. They're going to have that attitude.
I do just have to ask this question for my own personal reasons. Is it 100% certainty that Nakobe Dean will not be playing week 1?
It shouldn't be a certainty.
All right.
No.
But wait, we
it's
tweeted
impossible
that.
to say.
I just want to get.
tweeted that.
Yeah, I just wanted to get that on the record. All right, it is time now for the Kincade and Salciunas Key 3 best minutes from today's show.
Now, the Kincade and Salciunas Key 3.
Gardner-Johnson is not the greatest safety of all time. Trust me, a lot of you on social media yesterday, because a lot of people are sheep, and whatever the Eagles do, they just agree. A lot of people started doing the whole, come on, man, let's not overrate CJ GJ. Let's not act like he's Brian Dawkins. First off, he is talented in his own right. But second of all, there is more to than just the player that Chauncey Gardner-Johnson is. He brings an attitude that this team clearly did not have 2 seasons ago, and they suffered from it. There was a lot of issues that happened inside that locker room. Now, clearly, there was stuff that happened last week between CJ GJ and Darius Slay. I don't know if that had any impact in this. It could be. We will talk about it. But I'll tell you straight up right away to start the show, Johnny. And we'd love to hear from you guys today at 610-632-0975, because that was major news yesterday that came out of nowhere. There was no whisper of it. We didn't hear a single reporter say, hey, be ready to maybe see something like this. I was stunned, and quite frankly, I hated it. I don't like it at all.
Personality-wise, this defense is much different. Think about Quinyon Mitchell talking trash to A.J. Brown right off the bat when he was a rookie. Think about Jalen Carter not being a rookie anymore, but now being a guy in this league that can talk his talk. Think about Zach Bond and the confidence he's going to have on a big contract coming off of an all-pro year. They have dogs on this defense. This is not the rollover defense of the 2023 Eagles. They have some guys that can fill that role of fire on this defense now more than they did the last time Chauncey Gardner-Johnson walked out of town.
We
They're
can
really great.
still trust Howie and still trust Vic Fangio.
Yes.
And still trust Jeffrey Lurie and still trust Jeff Stoutland, right? Because they bring in a new guard. I can still trust all these people. That doesn't mean I can't question.
And that doesn't mean that you can't look at the facts and say that the same guy who bleeds for the city, who's gotten them to 3 Super Bowls in 8 seasons, can still make a lot of dumb moves too in his and we by the way, we've got a couple on the roster.
Schefter, good morning.
I think they're more likely to shed more salary than acquire more salary. That's how I feel right now. So you're asking if there's a trick up their sleeve? No. Again, I think they're more likely to shed more salaries, make more moves the other way than more outgoing than incoming. I think.
It is okay to be an Eagles fan and to not feel the need to just bah like a sheep and say, everything's fine, it's great. Or to go, Howie. You don't trust Howie? I do trust Howie. I've seen Howie do a lot of great things. But you cannot tell the story of Howie without saying there have also been the Titanic drop-offs after success. The one thing Howie Roseman does not have on his resume is sustained success.
All right, that is the Key 3 best minutes from today's show. It has been a spirited one.
It's been a fun show today.
Yeah.
Really good show.
Yesterday, when you called me with the news, I was like, all right, well, tomorrow's show's taken care of. We got something to talk about. I'm disappointed. Look, I don't hide when I'm wrong. I like to admit when I'm wrong because I think that's what everybody should do in life.
You want to be wrong on this one, right?
I definitely want to be wrong on this one,
all
but
do.
I can tell you when the news broke yesterday, I was not happy, and the more and more I thought about it, the angrier I got. And there might be a reason why I was up at 3:30 this morning and ready to go for the show. I wasn't happy with this decision, considering what I just saw happen 2 years ago. And the thing that bothers me is, Andrew, you were with me last week. When the Darius Slay and Chauncey Gardner-Johnson stuff unfolded, everybody picked Team CJ. He's he's the best.
Overwhelmingly,
We
yes.
love him, blah, blah. He then gets traded yesterday. I put out the tweet that I was upset with the move. And then all of a sudden, the same people are tweeting at me going, come on, he's a little overrated anyway. In Howie we trust. And I'm like, wait a minute. Don't do this. Whatever the Eagles do, you have to believe it.
And by the way, dump the "in Howie we trust" crap, because the majority of the fan base, 51% or more, have twice in his tenure advocated for him to be fired.
Oh, you missed this. Were you with me last week when we did this, when I found the poll?
Yeah.
I found an old poll
Okay.
of 4,000 votes.
All right.
Would you fire Howie Roseman? This is
And
in
when was it?
2021.
Oh, 2021.
93% said
Of
yes.
course. So stop with the "in Howie we trust" stuff. Stop with the "no one likes us, we don't care" stuff.
Yeah, and I also
which is
hate
the biggest lie ever
when
told.
big-time contributors leave. It's like, they were kind of overrated anyway, or he really was
no,
not to
he
fall
was
off a cliff. He's
very
older. He's
good.
34 years old.
Yeah.
You know,
Come on.
it's like a coping mechanism.
That's what it is. It's
Exactly what
I
it
don't
is.
want to believe that something bad's going to happen to my team.
But they were
So
singing their praises and thanking them for everything that they did 4 weeks ago.
Oh, yeah. And
We had-
Howie's one of those guys.
See, not only does Andrew DeCo know football, he knows radio. We had Schefter on at 6:55. We had to move him up a little bit earlier. The original discussion at 6:55 was the coping mechanism.
There it is.
That is,
I used that on Saturday.
trust Vic, trust Howie. You should trust them. I trust them.
You should.
Doesn't mean I don't question
Correct.
some of the moves.
You can trust someone and still question them.
And that's why it goes back to
my-
the Ringo and Sidney Brown. They weren't on the field last year.
My wife and I do collaborate a lot on stuff where I'll say, we run stuff past each other. And even if I trust her to handle everything around the house, I trust her, I still question stuff.
Yeah.
Well, why are we going with them?
Trust but verify. That's what I say for everything.
That's what it is. Hey,
That's my policy.
Hey, Window Nation made a donation to the American Association for Cancer Research, and you can too. Go to 975thefanatic.com/AACR. Your donations really do make a difference, and cancer research saves lives.
All right, everybody have a great rest of your day. The Mike Missanelli Show comes your way next with Bill Colarulo, Sean Rodman. producing
Seven
the
swipe.
show.
Call them 7 swipe.
Yeah, that's a lot
Each armpit.
That's a lot of. I know a kid when I went to high school that used to do the armpits and then he would go down the chest.
What?
Yeah, that's
What?
Double
uncalled
pits to
for.
chesty.
Yeah.
What? Come on. There's
You don't
commercials.
put deodorant on your chest?
I'm a 5 swiper. I'm not a 7 swiper. I can't go to 7.
But pits to chest, he was the spray.
Yeah, I
No,
was
he
just gonna-
went stick.
He went stick on his chest. That's
I
stupid.
don't know, maybe he had a stank chest. Who knows?
Everybody have a great rest of your
You
day.
wouldn't know, Connor.
We'll be back at it tomorrow here on 97.5 The Fanatic.